Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for October 16th. Thank you for watching. Our chair is away at an annual trip, so I, Yolanda Greaves, your vice chair, will be running the meeting tonight. If there's anyone here recording other than WACA-TV, please let us know. If not, we want to thank WACA-TV for broadcasting us out live and recording it for future showing. Brandy, would you read the vision statement for us?
Sure.
Haven't done that for a while.
The town of Ashland will be a prosperous and fiscally sound community with a full range of housing, business, cultural, educational, and recreational opportunities in a safe and attractive environment for residents and visitors.
Thank you very much. Rob, would you read our mission statement?
Sure. The Ashland Select Board is dedicated to promoting responsible fiscal management, advocating for sustainable development and growth, and providing excellent municipal services which will enhance the quality of life in our diverse community. The Ashland Select Board is committed to providing clear goals and objectives for town management and creating effective engagement and public participation with residents, state legislators, and other elected officials in order to achieve our mission.
Thank you. And Joe, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
It's nice when there's only four of us. Everyone gets to do something.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'd like to open it up to citizens' participation. If there's anyone who'd like to speak.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
We're having a pretty good weather system so far. We're doing well.
Okay,
for the
we all know who you are,
Mark
but
Sony,
thank
49. Wait a second. Let me start over. Okay. Mark Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road, Ashland, Mass. 01721, and the one and only Stu speaking. I'm lucky to live in this town that helps others be caring to each other and to understand each other. The board here is one of the best boards there is, and they show with the other boards. And the reason why I'm bringing that up because last week our planning board had a shining moment. One business wanted to come in, and there was a two-way street talk to. And this board put forth the mission statements and the other division and all that. Through me work with the bylaws is going with those visions and statements. And I want to keep it going, and the planning board went forth. And it's up to the individuals on the agenda, and there was also on the agenda, which I want to speak on later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so our first actual hearing
7:20.
is at 7:20. Since we have quite a few minutes, let's go to, are we expecting anybody to participate in the public safety building update, Michael?
Yeah, I actually have updates on.
No, but I mean, are we expecting anybody to come, or can we jump down?
We can jump in.
Can we do that in 15 minutes
We
before
can do
the 7?
we can do the whole
Priority project updates? Okay. We're gonna move down to priority project updates. Let's start with the public safety building, please.
Okay, so first of all, with the public safety building, we talked about the funding plan a couple of meetings ago. We've now released that. We put it on the town manager's blog and on the website, on Facebook, spread it out through social media. I believe the Metro West Daily News will do a story on that, and so hopefully people will read that, find it thoughtful, find it acceptable and palatable, and if they have any comments, they can certainly reach out to me. While that has been going on, we've also been working on the design and engineering of the building. We haven't sat still. So we've made a lot of progress, I think, since our last update. We have done our wetland report, and the delineation is currently, survey delineation is currently happening. We also had our engineers out there doing soil borings and soil samples to see if their initial geotechnical analysis was was sound, or if there were any surprises, and there were no surprises. So that means no good surprises, no bad surprises. So that's okay. We've been doing some smaller things like working on apparatus, sketches and apparatus, equipment, scheduling, I guess you could say. So things are moving on with that, and we expect to have, I think, more information probably, including the delineation and before Concom next month.
I hope so,
Yeah. So,
Great.
So there's that.
Any questions on public safety? Anybody? No? Okay.
Are we planning on having, I do, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Madam
that's okay.
Are we planning on having a public forum when it comes to the funding plan, so that way, I mean, everybody has the opportunity to hear what everybody has to say instead of just emailing them to you? I mean, I think the public as a whole should be part of this whole process and not just the specific individuals who email you directly. I would think that would be the right the way,
I would agree with that.
So,
Some
and
kind
that-
of public forum.
that's something that I would like to see.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. So we'll be doing those starting after town meeting.
Okay.
And so that's well in advance of any vote.
Okay.
So that should be, that will be happening. Update on the Riverwalk project, I think everybody can see, and everybody's excited. I hope everybody's excited about the progress that you're seeing on the Longspan Bridge. It's actually been incredible. There's only 2 or 3 people working out there at any given time, and the amount of progress they've made is great. So they should be finishing that up next week, and then we are going to look at some safety lighting as well, and so they'll probably have to come back for that.
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay. And then, so that's great, and then we'll hopefully be in the position to request funding at town meeting for some improvements at Mill Pond Park and to cap it off. And the only thing that remains is that short span bridge, which is a better, more direct connection between the Riverwalk and the train station. So I think that's great.
Okay.
I just have a suggestion or an idea about with the bridge and once it's completed. Have you thought about maybe having some sort of a contest or a naming of the bridge in someone's honor or memory?
Oh, that's a great idea.
I don't think that's a bad idea. We've talked about some smaller things like benches and everything that are going to be on the trail.
Like they do in front of the library, if they want to put
Yeah,
a memory off
yeah.
or something of that nature.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, the expansion
Now-
of that bridge would be.
Are you thinking, Joe, just a contest, or if someone's willing to donate X amount of money to name the bridge?
That's not a bad idea. That's,
Or,
one of the,
or funding for donations for benches with
Yeah.
names?
It's informally known as the Danny Shea Tribute Bridge, but probably should be called the
And,
Jen Ball.
and why would that be? If anything, I'd call it the Jen Ball Bridge,
Yeah,
because
I
of all
would-
the
yeah, I
work
would
she's
agree.
done on the project, but.
and I know Danny's watching, but.
So I know Danny's watching too. So,
Okay.
any other questions on that?
No?
Just one thing at the end, of course, under Complete Streets, we're gonna try to put in a pedestrian crossing to the train station, right? Remember that? So
That's
it's gonna
coming
end-
either way.
Yes, right. So my question was, when does it look like that's happening?
So,
Because right now, that's very busy, and there'll be people, I would think, taking it to the train, hopefully, and it's
So
gonna
there-
be a problem at the
there's
end
2
there.
pieces there. So you actually have the Hawk signal that's going to be installed from one side of Pleasant Street to the other, and that's a
That's
similar
great. That's the thing where you
signal,
press
Yeah.
the button
in
and the
front of
thing,
the
that's
library.
great.
And then there's the short span pedestrian bridge, which we still have some issues with and have to work through.
So that's
I mean,
not gonna be completed then?
Yeah, currently people can continue to walk down Ponderosa and get on Corderville. This would be a more direct
Yes,
access.
yes.
to
I
Pleasant
think it'll be quite popular once it's
I agree.
done, you know.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
agree.
People will be they'll get off downtown and get on that trail to get to the train station, I think.
And that was part of the design, right?
Yeah.
The better
Correct.
link between, a more popular link and scenic
Yeah.
link between downtown and the train station.
Of course, we all know Future will redo Pleasant Street with some bike lanes and better sidewalks and
Absolutely,
long-term.
absolutely.
Okay.
So update on the downtown project. I know our last few conversations about that have had not so good news in terms of timing and stuff. Jen, Doug, myself, and BSC, we've really kind of put our heads together to see what we can do. And so I think this is our plan going forward. We're going to try to get the infrastructure work done next year. That includes having one contractor do both the streetscape work and the installation of the underground utility work, like the conduits, the vaults, things like that. So Eversource has agreed to allow us to use a contractor to do that.
Okay.
To make that all work, we need to have their rough plans from all the utilities submitted by November 15th, which is what we're gunning for. BSC will take it and incorporate it into their drawings and their bid specs, hopefully by the end of the year. And then we would put bids out for the contractor, hopefully in February. And then they can start. And so once, let's call that phase one. So all the infrastructure work, including the utility undergrounding. So that's phase one. Phase two would be another bid, and actually we hope to combine phase two and phase three. Phase two is the installation of the equipment for the utilities. So pulling the wire, the panels, the pads, everything you need to do that. And then phase three is actually connecting to the homes from the undergrounding equipment. So, and that would probably be, I don't know how much work they can do in the winter, but if they can do some of that work in the winter, that'd be great. And then we could hopefully
Probably
be done.
depend on the winter, if it's mild or not.
Yeah.
Frost line.
Yeah.
Well, with all the infrastructure done, I mean, you're just then going into already installed manholes,
Right,
things like
right.
that, pulling the equipment, pulling the wire, installing the equipment. So, you know, you might not have to have real favorable weather conditions to
Right.
do that.
So does that mean that all the actual streetscaping, the sidewalks, everything could be done in phase one?
In phase one.
Yeah.
The only thing that will not be completed until phase three that you'll see that's actually visible is the removal of the poles. So you have to get everybody up, connected, energized, and then Eversource can start taking down the wires and you can start taking down the poles.
So, I just have one quick question, if you don't mind, Madam Chair.
No, not at all.
So the installation of the underground wires will not be done by Eversource? We'll be sourcing that out to another entity, or?
All of the work will be done by a contractor who is licensed by both MassDOT and then
Okay.
also Eversource.
Eversource, okay,
Eversource has to
all
have a
right.
qualified
Okay.
contractor.
All right, cool, thank you.
I know we don't usually talk about this during the downtown project, and if you don't have an update, we can get it later. The quiet zone? Where are we at with that?
I don't have an update on it. I know it's on the tip. We've submitted
Okay.
our initial plans. We still
Okay.
need to get to a certain level of the design phase. Again, I think I've expressed my concern before about the fact that this is earmarked money, and
Right.
yet we still have to go on the tip,
Right.
which is a little frustrating. Hopefully, things on the MPO change, and somebody can advocate for.
Well, and even without that, you would hope that, I mean, we're looking for what, 600,000, 750?
Yeah, the earmark's
It's
600,000.
small money, so I would think that as they have savings other places, they would be looking at, trying to move it in sooner, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Is the
Okay.
downtown dependent on that happening? Like, how does that coordinate?
Coordination has to happen, so,
Oh, yeah.
and there is coordination happening between BSC and Stantec
Good.
and the MBTA and Keolis.
Okay.
So any design that BSC is doing, there's no conflict
Okay,
with.
with what's.
Yeah, and really
And
most.
Stantec is really just looking from the correct engineering and requirements, right? I mean, there's no,
Well, they're putting together the plans and everything for the
Right.
quiet zone. The majority of the quiet zone work is actually on
Cherry
Cherry
Street,
Street.
right.
So very little that's actually on Main Street,
okay,
so.
okay.
Okay. Rail Transit District, don't have too much of an update, except that UGC gave a presentation today at the community center to about, I think, 80, let's say 75 or 80 people that were
Wow.
there. It was a very, generic's not necessarily the right word, but it was a very broad presentation. They didn't get into any specifics at all. Of course, everybody knows kind of where our respective positions are in regards to this development. We'd like to see the footprint tightened up, we'd like to see the road moved, and we would like to see at least a portion of the affordable units be truly affordable for
Mhm.
people of limited means. And so they have retained a new attorney. So hopefully we will have a conversation soon, and
So
Come
that
to an
answers
agreement.
that
Just a
answers my question.
Rob?
So what was the purpose of that, how did that meeting come about? Did they,
The one at the community
Yeah.
center? Well, so they wanted to do a presentation and sponsor a lunch.
oh,
Um,
are they looking for customers? Is that a client? And also
it is a
lobbying
sales
a bit,
pitch.
or-
Yeah, it's a sales pitch, and they're actually doing another one in November. They're sponsoring a Johnny Cash night with a Johnny Cash
All right.
impersonator,
Yeah, give
which
them
I find
points for
a
that.
lot better than Elvis impersonators,
Did
just
they-
for the record.
Did they show any plans
Nope.
at all?
So it's
No.
all about, so,
So no plans?
No plans, no
specifics?
prices. You talking about today?
Yeah,
No plans, no prices. I think, Alexis was there as well as Diane, so, I'm sure when they get their updates.
interesting.
you need to come to the microphone. I'm looking forward to your feedback, but we need you at the microphone.
Alexis Christopher, 435 Captain Ames. They did do a double-sided handout, and in there was a floor plan for one of the one bedrooms and one of the two bedrooms,
Oh,
Okay.
that was a handout that they had?
Yes.
Okay.
with a
Okay.
list of things to do. Most of the people at our table had problems with the two-bedroom layout.
Not good, not,
Not good because the bathroom's across the way from the master bedroom. There's one bathroom, and it's on this side, and the other end of the apartment is where the master bedroom is.
It's a lot.
yeah?
A little weird.
So this is like
Okay.
a focus group, or like they're looking
It
at?
was very
Were
interesting.
you were there?
Did you not
Yeah,
get
I
an
showed up.
invitation in the mail?
Were
No,
they,
I did
were they
not.
talking
See,
about
I'm
sort of
too
like
young.
their
They wouldn't-
services and sort of
Yeah.
their program?
It was a
like the-
really general overview.
Yeah.
It was almost like
Yeah.
a rah-rah session.
Interesting.
They didn't
went-
invite
and-
me
and
up
lunch.
to,
When we asked questions, she wasn't able to answer most of the questions.
Okay.
She put it off and said to come back in the November meeting.
Who
She
who
would
did the
have the meeting.
presentation?
UGC.
No, but who was the
From
representative
UGC.
from UGC? Was it
Her name was
Mr. Usolini?
Joanne.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No,
Woman.
Mr. Mike Usolini was
Interesting.
not there.
Interesting, okay. Thank you, Alexis.
Like I said, I don't know why they didn't invite me up to kind of share a few words, but oh well.
Okay.
So.
Get the Warren District done in 2 minutes?
Yep, Warren District. Really have, the updates are related to the barn. So the
Okay.
barn is anticipated to come down soon,
Tomorrow.
What?
Monday,
Monday. Yeah.
maybe, yeah, so we're working through some last minute issues, yeah.
Talking to some of the employees up there, they said they were told tomorrow they're gonna start knocking the building down.
Hmm. Well,
That's the 20th, but.
yeah, that was the 20th too.
If I could find that out, because I wanna
You wanna be up there, right?
get footage of that,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so that, and then also, I think David Foster had a meeting today with the architect to kind of talk about revising the design. I've said a design a design cannot result in an estimated price of over a certain dollar amount.
Good.
So, we need to kind of give them some finite constraints to work within, and we'll
Okay.
see. It probably is not gonna be much more than the shell.
That's
um,
fine.
But I think that meets our intents for
I think
right
it's
now.
time to start the Friends of the Warren District, and
Awesome. So,
I'm a true believer in Friends of organizations, because
well, they
they
can
do
raise money.
fundraising, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
important.
And then last, the Valentine Estate Committee will have its first meeting next Thursday, the 22nd.
Okay.
I believe it's at 7 PM. So
Did we-
I will probably be attending that first
And where is
one.
that being held?
It's gonna be in Town Hall, hopefully downstairs.
I had a question about the membership. I thought that night we voted Judd, he was on the list that I saw, but then I asked him later and he said he wasn't on the committee. Did we?
I sent you the information that was provided that night for the interested parties. I got the information from David, I did not go to that forum, but I don't believe the gentleman that you mentioned, was part of that list. I'd have to go back and look again.
It might be,
We'll
do
check
you guys
on
well, people probably wouldn't remember, but I could have sworn, because I know him and I thought I saw his name on the list and that we voted for him.
Well,
I don't know if there was some discussion that night about, there was another list, or there was some
There was some confusion about it, and I think a couple
Um,
people hadn't returned their talent bank forms,
Right, but the list was,
the people who had.
it was a
No,
list
there
of
was
everybody, and I think there was
one
a
person
talent
who
bank form that was
missing,
not part
And
of
we,
it.
but I think we voted everyone on it. so.
Correct. we
Okay,
did.
so we'll
have
figure
to
it
follow
out.
that up.
If there's
Yeah.
a board action that needs to be taken, we can go. I don't
See if I
anticipate
can
any
find my
votes
notes.
next
I
week.
looked through it, but I must have recycled them responsibly, of course, but,
So if there's a
You
board
should have
action,
it
we'll let you
electronically
know.
then,
true.
right? Go back
Well-
and look at your electronic.
That's right, we all should have.
We should
yeah.
all.
Yes.
Anyway,
Good point.
okay, it is time to open our hearing. Legal notice for the town of Ashland. Notice is hereby given that the select board will conduct a hearing regarding an application for an entertainment license for Dolce de Leche at 200 Homer Avenue, Ashland, Mass. 01721. The public hearing will be held on the matter at Ashland Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. On Wednesday, October 16th, 2019 at 7:20 p.m. Parties wishing to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place indicated above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Select Board's office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Steve Mitchell, Chairman, Board of Selectmen. So, we are now open. And if I could have you come, you're here, right? Yes. So, Samantha? No, you are
Jules.
Jules.
Jules,
I
yeah.
apologize. Samantha is the only name I have on here.
I guess she filled out the application.
Yes. Well, Jules, welcome.
Thank you.
If you could let us know, we have some plans in front of us. Susan, as we start, do we have all the paperwork necessary to consider the entertainment
We do.
license? Okay, great. If you could talk to us a little bit about what you're planning on doing and,
Okay, so I don't
Introduce-
know if everybody knows here who we are. I know most of you do.
why don't you start with that? Because
Okay.
unfortunately, there are people who may not have been to the farmer's market.
Okay.
Not many.
Okay, so we are, I guess, a food manufacturer and a restaurant here in Ashland. We just moved here. We've been in Framingham for a few years. This is our new hub for production. We've built a dining room with capacity for about 40 people and a private room off to the side. We're essentially in a concrete bunker in the middle of the old warehouse. So that's pretty much the best description of
Wow.
it, based on
Concrete
all of the
bunker.
drilling we've had to do to get pipes in and anything else.
Oh, wow.
What we'd like to be able to do is a lot of community-oriented events. So we're thinking jazz brunches some weekends. I've listed the times on the forms there. We've had a couple requests already for bar mitzvah parties on Saturday evenings. There are a couple other businesses in the building. We've talked to both businesses and found that their offices are closed after 6 p.m. on weekdays, and they're not open on weekends.
Okay, good. Any questions? Okay,
I do.
go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Jules. I've tested many of your fine products,
I'm glad to
as you
hear
can
it.
see. One of my questions would be, I know that you want to have like an entertainment license to provide these private functions or gatherings.
Right.
Would you be holding other public functions as well, in addition to the ones that you said, private dinners, tastings? I would assume that would be a public gathering.
That is public.
Okay. And small weddings and small bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. Would there be any other types of events that you would want to provide entertainment for? I know originally you actually changed your hours, which was good, and all my questions were related to that prior to that change, because I know you wanted something from 8 to 10 Saturdays and Sundays, but now it's more of a
Yeah,
daily
8 to
event
10
type.
is really too early. I think my wife filled out the application the first time, and then I brought a little bit of clarity to it. Mostly, I think she wanted to cover just all of the bases, but when
Okay.
you sit down and think about what we actually want to do,
Yep.
it adds a lot more.
It definitely does add a lot more. So the only company that it was on process that you spoke to, with those
Right.
folks already, there's no other businesses that are around you?
There is bin 1-8. However, they're rarely at the site.
Okay.
When they are, we have a wall, then a 30-foot buffer warehouse space, and then another set of walls between them and us
Okay.
as well.
All right. I was just concerned, because I've been in there multiple times for breaks and alarms and stuff, and it's somewhat of a maze, and I know that
Yes, it is.
you can go from one wall to the other and go from one office to the next office by just punching through the wall.
On process mostly surrounds us. We've been told, you know, they're the ones who aren't there on weekends ever, but we've also been told that even the people who are there during the week on the wall that's adjacent to basically our dining room will all be assigned to be working from home by Christmas, so that space is going to be empty actually on
Okay.
weekdays as well.
Okay. My only concern is that the live entertainment with, amplification. It starts out nicely, and then it ends up, we don't want to turn into a rock,
Yeah, punk rock show.
right, that's it, yeah, that's it, exactly.
Yeah.
So, if that's something you can control and watch over, that would be fine. That was my only concern.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Just curious, there's no liquor license involved in this, or did we already issue one?
So
or-
there's not yet. We know that there are beer and wine licenses available. We do plan to apply. Right now, we only have one employee who's tip certified. My wife and I are so busy getting ready to open, we don't have time to do a tip certification, and our heads are really spinning right now, so we just want to give it time to calm down a little bit before we
Okay.
go there.
Okay.
Smart.
And are you still going to have your location in Framingham as well as this one, or?
Yes, we make everything for
You
Framingham and
mentioned-
Ashland already now,
Wow, okay,
the last month.
great. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in support of this? Or anyone who'd like to speak against? Okay, do we need any other information, Susan, or we have everything we need? Okay.
And the only thing
Great.
I want to add is just to welcome you guys to Ashland. We're
Oh, thank
excited
you.
you're here.
Well,
You're
now,
in
wait a
space.
minute, you gotta wait until we actually take the vote.
Okay,
Maybe-
sorry.
I mean,
Sorry.
they're already here.
They're
but
already
still.
here.
Still welcome.
Okay. If I can have a motion to close the public hearing, please.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. If there's no other comments, if I could get a motion to approve the entertainment license with the hours as listed.
I would make a motion to allow a entertainment license at 200 Homer Ave at Del Leche, I'm gonna say this wrong.
Dolce de leche.
And being
Really,
Italian,
Joe?
I know, I'm already getting slapped already by my grandmother. For a full entertainment license, for the hours that are listed, on their application, as listed.
Okay, if I can get a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. You now have an entertainment license. Welcome to Ashland. And we look forward to tasting some yummy things.
You have a beautiful space. It's beautiful. So anyone that hasn't been there yet, definitely check it
I'm
out.
hoping to see it Friday.
As all the older times, we say
Yeah,
that's
piano,
right.
piano.
Jules, you and
All the
Sam
time.
have been a lesson in perseverance, because you have been working on this for 2 years.
Yeah.
2
Wow.
years. Wow.
And we're really happy you chose here.
Yeah, Jules, thank you.
Great.
Thank you for the
Jules.
investment.
Okay.
That's it, yeah. That was, Beth sent that invitation out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Our next hearing is not until 7:35, and it's also a public hearing. Can we take the consent agenda?
My only are you gonna talk about that grant at some point? I should. I'd just like to hear about the grant on there, the mental health clinician.
Oh,
The jail
I
diversion
thought we
grant.
did that. Didn't the chief talk about that?
yes, it's
Oh.
a yearly one that we get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That we apply for and get,
Good.
but it,
Well, it might be, yeah.
yeah.
I think it's something to communicate with people about, that we're doing that. I think it's great.
Might be faster just to read it.
Okay. On our consent agenda, we have accept the jail diversion grant in the amount of $90,000 for a mental health clinician. waive the 15-day waiting period for the appointment of Abby Sherman, library page, and of Seamus Joyce as a light equipment operator for cemetery parks and trees, and accept the business incentive program from the state in the amount of $100,000, which will be paid out 2 payments of $50,000 each. If I can get a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. So, Michael, if you want to talk real quick about the mental health clinician?
Sure. So this is a program that allows communities, and I think this is a regional grant, and so we share a mental health resource clinician with a couple of other communities, but it allows us to bring in a mental health clinician to intervene in certain situations where it might be more appropriate than taking somebody to jail, thus the jail diversion program. So, I don't want to say many times, I'm really not that familiar with the statistics, but I think there are times when it's more appropriate for somebody to get mental health or mental health help than it is to send them to jail or,
Right.
put them in a cell. So this is a program I think Craig Davis started in Framingham, was successful in getting some grants, and he carried that over here. Chief Alfano is a proponent of the program as well. We've found it to be very, very helpful in terms of, saving jail space for, people who actually deserve that, and then actually treating the problem and not necessarily the symptom. Criminal behavior is sometimes a symptom of
Other things?
mental
Very
health.
good.
So
Yeah.
it's a program we're all pretty proud of, and it's been going on now for like 5 or 6 years here. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, we're gonna go to our first item under old new business, Eversource. No new update expected. Is that still accurate, or?
I don't have an update.
Okay, I know we are still
Robin?
seeing emails come through from residents to Eversource and copying us about, not wanting it to happen, so.
Yeah.
Rob, did you have a?
Yeah, and we've talked at various times, and I've had this discussion with Michael about having a consultant or an expert review the, you'll recall last year we hired Gay to actually kind of look at the project from the point of view of getting the best pipeline in Ashland and those issues. She's an industry insider, so that was a good move. But at the time, we did not elect to kind of review Eversource's analysis of the need for the pipeline. And we've got some information since then. Professor McKenna did some work, and Roberta put in a very strongly worded memo with a lot of backup. So, but I as a public official would like, in terms of dealing with this project, which is a big, very serious construction project if it happens, probably the largest one we'll be facing while we're on the board, probably in terms of impact. I would feel more comfortable if we had a stronger kind of technical review or critique, if you will, of Eversource's analysis, which is really just a few pages in their initial application, their analysis of why the pipeline is necessary, their review of alternatives. And I think that's just a gap we haven't filled in this process fully. And I think we've discussed, having someone ready to go should we need it. I guess I'm saying is I'd like to see a real independent alternative analysis of what Eversource's conclusions were by people who were active in sustainable energy and renewable energy, and what the possible alternatives are, because they're basically, if you recall, saying there are no feasible alternatives, that if they don't expand the pipeline, there'll be gas shortages in Framingham and Natick in 3 or 4 years. I mean, that's their basic rationale. So I'd feel comfortable if we had a strong analysis saying, no, you can do this alternative instead, or possibly they might say, yeah, there's something to this. I don't know. That's why I have a feeling myself in the analysis I've made, as far as I can do it and what I've seen, that there is an alternative, and that's one of the reasons. If you recall, this board last year said that Eversource had not made its case for the necessity of the pipeline. So I think we're just missing that expert technical review saying, this is the case that they don't need a pipeline. Because we questioned it, but we don't actually have that strong, we have some, I'll say that, there's a lot of testimony and a lot of, so I'd feel more comfortable if we actually commission someone, maybe for hopefully not much money, to really do that in-depth analysis and give us a report that we can use to influence how we're looking at this project and use it in various ways.
So I'm gonna put a hold on that conversation, because I think other people might wanna say something, but it is 7:35, so we
sure.
need to open our next public hearing, and then we'll go back to that item, because I do have
Sure.
comments back. Okay. Legal notice, public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room located at Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland. The hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, October 16th, 2019, at 7:35 PM on the application filed by Luciano Pereira. He has filed an application for a Class II license to allow for the sale of used cars at 87 Nickerson Road, Ashland, Mass. Parties wishing to be heard on this matter are invited to attend the public hearing at the date and time noted above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Selectman's Office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, submit Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Steve Mitchell, Chair of the Select Board. Do we have Luciana here? Come on up.
Hi.
Welcome, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks, good, thanks. So we have your application. Susan, do we have all of the paperwork that is required?
We do.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your business, what you're planning to do, space that you're using, and we'll start there.
Hi, my name is Luciano, like you said, Luciano Pereira. I'm the owner of Luz Garage at Nixon Road. We've been on that location for about a year, and I've been running through a lot of problems with people buying cars everywhere and not getting fixed right. And one of my customers gave the idea, why do not sell cars? You don't need to have a real big dealer, but just buy and sell. You're gonna fix it the right way. So I decided to apply and see how that go and grow my business and help whatever my customers.
Okay, and in looking at your hours, you're not planning on being open on Sunday,
No,
and then Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, and Saturday, 8 to 1.
yes, which we already do that as a
Okay,
repair
so-
shop.
So you're just, this is your business times, hours already, and you're just adding the sale of cars. And on the plans that we were given, it looks like you're only gonna have 4 cars for sale?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And how will that be in regards to the rest of your business? How will those 4 cars impact other cars in and out for,
I already have, it's a pretty big garage, about 4,000 square feet. I have plenty of parking space, even using those ones for selling cars, I
Okay.
still gonna have about 10, 15 parking space,
okay, okay.
which I can rent more if one day came to bother my repair shop.
What do you mean you could
There
rent
is more space to be rent.
more parking and,
Yeah, more
okay.
parking space.
Okay, good. Questions from the board or concerns?
I'm not familiar with your business. How long have you're a garage, auto garage? That's what you're.
I've been working on auto repair all my life. At that location, it's gonna be 1 year next month.
Oh, okay,
It's a new building. It's a brand new building at Nixon
Okay.
Road.
The lights-
It's been
the light
going
issue last year.
pretty good.
Sitting in the back.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
Okay.
I was just, go ahead.
So they were before us a year ago. They put new buildings and some new lighting, and there was a
Oh,
person who had complained that that has
Oh,
now been
okay.
fixed.
right.
The issue.
Oh, now I remember that,
Yeah.
Took
yeah.
care of it,
Yeah.
took care of it immediately. I know
Very
Mr.
good.
Benuto's in the back out there, and he answered our questions and did what he said he was
Yeah.
going to do in a timely fashion. But I do have a couple of concerns and a couple of questions, if you don't mind,
For this specific.
for this specific.
Okay, go ahead.
And this has nothing to do with respect to you, but I know that we've had people in the past come and ask for Class II licenses. And they say they're, you're looking for 4 spaces. We grant 4 spaces, and then eventually down the road, without coming again, I do drive-by visits. This is my sword. This is something that I really watch over, because people take advantage of the fact that we don't really look to see what people are doing when they get these Class 2 licenses. I, on the other hand, do. You're looking for 4 spaces, but my question to you, sir, would be, exactly how many vehicles will you be storing at your location prior to selling them, once they're repaired? So I'm assuming that you're gonna find some cars that need to be repaired. Once you repair them, you're gonna put them up for sale. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how many vehicles at one point will you have not being sold, but being stored there for repair to sell?
On my own, it would be about 4 cars, 5 cars. I'm not planning. I'm planning more to add on to the business. One of the reasons I want to do this, I applied for a license to do this right, not going behind nobody's back.
No, and I appreciate that.
And I don't see no reason. I don't want to become a dealer. I'm just adding, be able to sell the cars actually to my own customers. I don't plan this to become a car dealer. I'm more investing to a repair facility than a dealer.
Okay, so you won't have any non-registered vehicles other than those that you're selling?
I repair cars for other facilities, other dealers.
So how would you make the distinction from those vehicles to the vehicles that you're actually gonna be selling?
Because that's where I market where I'm gonna be parking those cars. That's where the place I'm gonna be using, which is not even on the front of the business. It's on the back of the.
Right, the 4 places are in the back.
Yeah,
right.
that's where I'm gonna be putting all 4 cars for sale.
Okay, and I'm sure you can understand my concern would be because there are other locations on that street that have taken advantage of this board with respect to the fact that, 4 or 5 cars, and you drive down the street and you see 15 to 20. Matter of fact, you have a picture of one of them right now on your view, if you take a look at them.
So this is the very end of Nickerson.
This is the very end of Nickerson Road, right?
Okay.
And if you look up over here, this is his road, and if you look up over here, you will see Jeeps,
Yeah, you're saying that.
and they're all unregistered,
Yeah.
and they're all for sale. So my concern is, we're not gonna see something like that.
No, because I need my parking space for my repair shop too.
Okay.
So I can't really build up 10 cars for sale that will be stuck in there,
Okay.
and still use the parking for my customers and the repairs that I'm doing already.
I know the owner of the property is here. Is there any concern with the fact that you may have other companies and businesses, in and around that area, that you have another building here as well? Do you foresee any issues with parking locations and people taking up spaces to put, additional cars there for sale, which may impinge the other businesses that are renting from you?
I'm sorry, if you
Pete,
could come up to
Fran,
the
if you
mic
can come up,
just so that.
thanks.
Thank you.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just want to make sure you're okay with it.
As Lou knows, I police the area pretty well and watch over. Everybody has a limited amount of parking spaces, and then I have unmarked parking spaces that are unmarked, which is open war. Anybody can use them, but they can't keep them overnight there, and they can't have unregistered vehicles in those spots.
Okay.
So I keep a pretty close watch on it.
I figured you did, but I just want to make sure you're comfortable with this.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And he runs a good shop too.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this project? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against this project?
Did we get any emails
Okay.
from anybody?
Any other information, or Susan, did we get anything via email on this project? We did not, okay. Any other deliberation or questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
Move
I can
to
get a
close the
motion,
hearing.
thank you, and a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. If I could get a motion on this Class 2 license for 87 Nickerson Road for 4 cars.
Excise tax.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a Class 2 license for 87 Nickerson Road, for the sale of used cars.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, that carries
Thank you.
4-0.
I wish you much success.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you and good luck. Great,
Big Brother's watching.
thank you. And now we're back on time. Well, we were on time before, we were ahead.
No, yeah, we're
Okay,
scheduled.
moving on, we have an update from the Council on Aging. As was mentioned at our last Select Board meeting, the Select Board appoints various committees and groups here in town, and to help the community see what those groups and committees are, you can head on up, I'm just talking while you're moving. So we felt it would be good to bring forward those committees that we appoint and let them share what they're working on and what they're doing here in the community, how they're supporting all of us, and it's also an opportunity for us to ask them some questions and then thank them for their service. And our first appointment tonight is an update from the Council on Aging.
Before you get, Alexis, do you want to sit down? Would
No,
that be
I'm
better?
fine for the
You
first
sure?
few minutes. I'm not gonna
She
take
may
my
need to
20
take a
minutes.
break.
I'll sit down if I need.
When we ask questions or whatever, you can take a break.
Okay. Susan's looking for my, thank you, Mark. I'm Alexis Christopher. I'm the chair of the Ashland Council on Aging. I've been in this position since this past September. We voted and changed our officers. I know I sent it to her twice.
I have it.
We have it here, so I know it's there.
I just have to say that.
While we're waiting, Alexis, can you introduce who else is here from your
Yes, I
committee?
have three other members. I have Jean DeLucia.
We're putting you on the spot.
I can't pronounce her name right. I want to do it Italian when it's not.
DeLuca.
Diane Hansen and Jim Zabrowski. And
Thanks
Jim
for
is
coming.
actually our secretary this year. He very nicely volunteered because none of the women wanted to be the secretary. So we moved from chair to secretary.
Forced.
It's too sorry. That's quite all right.
Oh, before. 9:30.
Okay, I'm gonna hold your word to that.
Yeah, 11.
Deep trouble, Joe.
Why?
We have to talk afterwards.
Okay, I'm always in trouble.
Oh, no.
Fun with technology.
It's one of the reasons I retired.
As a technology?
Yes, and I work for a tech company.
The public safety bill, I'm still waiting for a response.
What do we got?
I think you just
Just
turned
to
off.
reset it.
Yeah, might have been on for too long.
Yeah, that's what happened, they overheat and
Yeah.
then turn off.
What's going on?
I see a green flashing light.
Just like that, okay.
No throwing things. I heard that.
They're getting a little restless, Madam Chair. I don't know what.
We need to separate them.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Does that-
No?
say-
Okay.
It's
not connected.
Oh,
Yeah.
That'll do.
Oh, that one.
hey, you know,
That'll
when we
cause
do
it.
tech
Looks like
support with our
we-
company, the first question you always ask, you know, if there's no, if they don't see anything on their screen, are you plugged in? Are you connected to the monitor? Thank you, Miles.
Rob and I were all AVA people, but that had to do
I
with
was-
films and
yeah,
stuff.
I-
It had nothing to do with this technology.
But that still
That
had to,
took
you had to
real
make sure
skill.
that was plugged in too.
That's right.
There we go.
Okay, it
Looks like it's
Ah,
somewhere
there we
else.
go. Woohoo.
There we go.
See, it was Miles' fault.
So, the Council of Aging and the Department of Elderly Affairs actually work out of the community center, so you can see we're very active there. Our mission statement, it is the mission of the Ashland Council on Aging to advocate for a variety of services and activities that support the independent well-being of all seniors while enhancing their dignity and self-respect. And I really want to stress the word advocate. We feel very strongly about that. My members of the board are myself as chair, Carol Love, who's not here, as vice chair, Jim Zabrowski as secretary, Jean DeLucre, Joanne Fahey, and Diane Hansen, and Sarah Parquette. And we have 2 open positions, which I'll talk about later. So we're an advisory board. We support the Director of Elder Services. We have no budget. We don't handle any money. Even when we work with the Friends of the Council on Aging, we make sure we don't handle the money because we want to make sure there's a good barrier between that. We advocate for seniors throughout Ashland. We actually try to go and visit the housing authorities, the housing complexes. We usually hold a meeting the first Thursday of the month from 10 to 12. We actually do it after the Lions have their breakfast so we can all get together and then move on to our meeting. And then I actually go to the Friends meeting, which is 12 to 2. So it's a long morning. We try to meet once a month, although once in a while we have to have a second meeting because we get backed up on things to approve and we find we need to do that. And we want to stress that town citizens are welcome. We really would like to see more town citizens come and sit into our meetings and voice their opinions. So in the previous year, the senior center, and we looked at all the data, and I decided to go from July 1st of last year to June 30th of this year, 30th.
That's our budget year, that works.
And we had over 19,281 activities, where events, rides, services, volunteering. An example would be if I go to the senior center this morning, I went to the senior center, I actually volunteered in the office, and I went to the lunch. So that's 3 activities.
Wow.
So, and you'll find some people do 5 or 6. And we actually had, that number breaks down to like 1,204 from last year. So that's why you see the numbers, there's such a difference in the numbers. We have day and evening programs offering at the senior center. We've become dementia friendly, and we have programs involved with that. We're actually visiting and having activities at senior housing. We had, this morning we did a chocolate cupcake thing at the senior center, at the Ashland House. And we're very involved with Great Decisions with the library in conjunction with the Friends. And that runs 10 months a year. So in the accomplishments we've met, we just finished having our meeting at Ashland Commons and Park Road Housing, where we actually hold a meeting, and this last one, Jack Lewis came and was involved with it. We were talking about housing requirements. And we're involved with the Dementia Friendly Initiative. Diane was very involved with it. We do joint committees to explore evening programs with the Friends. We have table of farmers market and Senator Spilka's Senior Health and Wellness Fair, and we usually do it as a table with the Friends, so we actually support each other that way.
And that was just this past weekend, correct?
Mhm.
And I heard it was very successful.
I actually was in Canada and Canadian Thanksgiving, so
okay.
I couldn't tell you. And we encourage the state legislators to increase fundings for rest homes. We've written a couple letters and voiced our opinions. Because as I said, we're advocates. So our ongoing efforts, we want to develop public service announcements with WACA. Sarah Paquette, who isn't here this evening, and Carol Love are working with them to actually do 2- and 3-minute little blurbs for us. We're working with the Friends on various efforts. We're looking at talking to them about putting in a new TV screen coming into the senior center, so we'll list what your meals are, we've got available, upcoming programs and that. Instead of looking at 8.5 by 11 paper, for which as we get older, our eyes don't gets worse. I have problems reading distances without my glasses. So a large screen about this big would be very helpful. We want to investigate programs for helping older seniors deal with isolation and depression. We're finding that that's becoming a big issue. And so we want to start looking at that and working with Joanne Duffy on those programs. And we want to continue to promote the continued dementia-friendly initiatives in town. We think that's been very helpful. And what can help, how the select board can help us, is Steve Mitchell comes to our meetings. We want that, either Steve to continue or somebody else. That gives the board a way to tell us what's going on and for us to tell the board what's going on. The other thing is, we'd like you to start publicizing our 2 openings, because we don't seem to be able to get people involved. And they don't have to be seniors to be on the board. They just have to be a citizen of the town. And we recommend that they come and watch one of our meetings and participate and find out what we're all about, what we're looking at. And then if they're interested, to fill out a talent board form and submit it through the Board of Selectmen. And the third thing is, which we didn't do here, is I sent a message to you as an individual, not as the chair of the Council on Aging, that it is important for affordable housing for seniors. And I stress the word affordable. Because there is a big difference between what I could afford and what somebody else could afford. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Alexis?
No.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming in. And I believe Steve is committed. I'm sure he really wanted to be here for this one, but because of how we scheduled it, his vacation was scheduled for this week.
I know, but he also told me that he'd gotten a copy of it and reviewed it. So.
Oh, good. Sure, go ahead.
Hi, Alexis.
Hi there.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. We talked a little bit about affordable housing, and I believe you sent something recently inquiring about the Robert Hill Way project.
Yes, I did.
Is that a project that you support? And
I personally support it. We have not brought it up in front of the council, and I actually will add that to my agenda for November to talk about. But I personally do, because I think you need something like that.
okay, something at like the 40 to 60, because I think all of those units are at the 40 to 60% income range, and I think when we talk about real affordability, that's what we're talking about, not like the 80%.
No, because I sat through the presentation, and a little bit of my history. My father worked for a company that built condominium villages all over Florida, and I told Michael this, that I sounded like a condominium sales pitch. And then I'm sitting there figuring out what I would spend, and they're affordable. 1 bedroom is more money than I pay in my mortgage and my condo fee. So I mean,
It's certainly something that we are questioning as
Yeah.
these, UGC is coming in, and it looks like it could be a wonderful project, but in regards to making it really affordable,
yeah, that's the
and
issue.
many of us are concerned about that and are pushing for it,
We're
so.
we're advocating for
Yeah.
some of those affordable units to be more at the 30 to 50% income range.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
I have one question. I was just curious whether the council has provided any feedback to the YMCA because I know they're doing a community needs survey right now, and I didn't know if the seniors were kind of actively participating in that, because some of the programs and things.
I got an email from Ed Brutz,
Okay.
and I turned around and forwarded it to all the members of the board with a please do not respond to me,
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Smart.
so that they can use the link to go in and check it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that your needs are kind of represented,
Yeah.
because I know that they've had quite a bit of respondents in their survey, and they're going to come back and present back to the town what has been reflected in the survey results, but just making sure that you have an active voice in what comes to the
My own
Y.
experience with, when I lived in the West Coast, there was a Y in Santa Barbara, and I had a couple of friends who did the water aerobics, and it really helped them, and that was one thing that I think the seniors would be really interested in. I know I personally would be, so.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank
Nothing
you.
else? Thank you very much, Alexis.
And I'm gonna sneak up and go home.
Okay,
Okay.
that's allowed. Our next update is supposed to be from Community Preservation Committee. It's a little bit early, but if you're here and ready, we'd love for you to come and present and give us your update. And we weren't sent anything, were we?
No, we went non-technology route, just old school, good old-fashioned words and dialogue. Hopefully that's okay for this evening.
She can go get the work from you. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm Aaron Ladd. I'm co-chair of the committee. Joe Rivertone, co-chair. And we're also joined by Amy Syed and Gretchen Bravicos, also of our committee as well. We're currently at 8 of 9 members. Our one open spot is a representative from the Historical Preservation Outlet. So again, assistance in helping to fill that position. It's been open for some time, and that's the one open position we have at this time. So it's our first year working as co-chairs. Beth Rosenblum, who was a chair for a long time, has stepped aside and moved outside of Ashland. And Joe and I have appreciated jumping into that role and getting to know the details of the committee and knowing what's going on with applications before us. We've worked with the State Community Preservation Coalition to better understand how the state match has been discussed. And they've done a lot of good work to make sure that Ashland continues to get its match as needed and represented by the state. Joe will speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, so for fiscal year 18, we got a 24% match, was about 236.
Just move closer to the microphone so people can hold.
So for fiscal year 2018, we got a 24% match, it was about $236,000. The match for fiscal year 19 should be announced mid-November, so coming up shortly. But there was Governor Baker moved to increase funding to CPA funds via fees at the Registry of Deeds. So the estimate was that there was going to be an additional $36 million a year that would be available for match. So more to come there, but hopefully it would continue the strong match that we've seen in the past. So.
Okay.
So in the past year, we've been following up on projects that have been approved recently. So we've gotten updates on the Valentine property to follow along on how that project is progressing, of weatherizing the building to make sure it's safe from the elements, and clean up the site, which you can easily see as you drive by, which is great. We've been getting good updates from our Town Forest Committee on work they've been doing, and again, very visible to see town signs and clean up in the forest. And then we're making next steps to get prepared for November town meeting and applications that come before us. Town Forest will be submitting an application related to the stone building, I guess, if you could refer to it.
Bungalow.
The stone bungalow, and making sure, again, that is preserved going forward, using historical funds to protect that for a long period of time and make sure that it doesn't relegate anymore. And then an application from town manager related to Mill Pond Park and renovating that to connect with the River Walk and downtown improvements to make our open space more accessible and improve there. So we're working through applications as they come before us. We're always open to other applications before from the town. We have an open public meeting on October 22nd, next week, which is available for anyone from the town to submit applications, and we're always reviewing those to be available. But those are the two we've received at this time.
Do you have a funding update? What's your budget? Where do things stand? I know we got an updated town meeting. How much has changed, or?
Yeah, I mean, since the Springtown meeting, there's been no, there've been no material new grants since probably the Valentine.
Okay.
I don't have the most up-to-date financials,
That's fine.
Top of mind, but generally speaking, there's still significant funds there. To do projects within the scope of the Four Corners, and I will say I'm excited about the potential. The trust does have some amount of funds that's come from CPC, and I'm excited about some of the things and the ways they're thinking about trying to put that money into force to create affordable housing. So,
Good.
Yeah.
So we would envision a town meeting in November to give an update again on where our finances stand, based off of the matches and paying off debts and et cetera. But again, because we're available to take applications, we're excited to see what comes forward in the town. The only other discussion that we consider at this time is we know that's kind of in our pipeline is related to the Upper Charles Rail Trail and how that comes in pieces and parts and what the thinking is there. Again, no specifics, but we just know that's, I don't want to say an unfunded mandate, but something that we're having on our back radar to consider in the next few years for applications. So all of those requests have been related to open space improvements, a small historical, but we'd love to see affordable housing funds because that's a separate bucket for us, and promoting that as well.
Great. Joe, go ahead.
How much money is left in the bucket list for recreation and in that field?
So At this point, I think the open space fund itself is fairly low because in the years past, there's been a number of larger, uses. But the general fund can have money transferred from the general fund towards recreation and open space should there be a project that would require funds in excess of what is in that fund per se. So, yeah.
I mean, 'cause
And
I
when we
know
get the match, there's like a distribution to the fund, and I think the biggest piece of that ultimately ends up in the general.
Okay.
So,
The only reason why I asked that is I know that there are some people talking about the possibility of doing something with respect to recreational activities and providing a venue for kids to utilize. And it's not open space, it's recreational, so that's, and I know we put open space in recreation, but if that money could be transferred into the general, from the general to that, then that may be something to, because I think they're kind of hesitant knowing that there's not much money left in that particular bucket.
no, yeah, I mean, and I think we'd both encourage them to, come,
Okay.
let's chat and
Yep.
see, get a sense of what they want to
Okay.
do. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
Madam Chair, I just had a
Yes, go ahead,
question.
Rob.
So, yeah, thank you guys and the other people for your efforts on the CPC. It's been really an essential tool for land preservation and sustainable development in this town ever since we passed it, which, I don't know, was it 20 years ago, 15 years ago maybe?
We were one of the earliest,
Yes,
for sure.
very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So, but it is kind of a challenging, from your point of view, it must be kind of challenging in terms of funding. Like, people come to you with all sorts of ideas, and the question is, how much should you grant and how much should you keep for the next great idea coming down the pipe? Like if we wanted to buy an expensive piece of property or something that was a really good project, but meanwhile you've spent it all on other projects. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you have a way of looking kind of even, like, for example, the Upper Charles Trail possibility? So that's on your radar screen, so that's good. Maybe I would suggest to have all these kind of ideas in a pipeline so you can kind of get an idea. Well, if we grant this particular project for $200,000, that means we won't be able to do this one, which is kind of forming out there in the future. So I don't know, it's not an easy.
That's the way I used to work in my previous work of having a 5-year capital plan.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You try to have that. So we try to think like that.
Yeah, very good.
Data collection and getting numbers is not always possible. So we at least try to have in our head, here are some of the things that have been mentioned or talked about, and have a presence
That's
there.
great.
But
Yeah.
as far as getting values is sometimes hard
Yeah, it's
to balance
difficult.
with
So
that.
I guess one thing I encourage, if people have ideas, at least they should approach you at least
Correct.
informally and say, look, we're thinking about this.
Yes.
How's it looking,
I mean, the trail committee, the rail trail committee has actually been,
Yeah.
I think they're a good example of that. They've come and talked to us and said, hey, this is going on and want to put it on your radar.
Yeah.
There was no submission, but it logs in our, our memory.
I mean, in general, at this time, we get far fewer applications than comparable towns.
Is that true?
I mean,
Really?
looking at other towns, they are comparing sometimes 10 to 20 applications. In my 2 years, I think we've had 3, 4. So we don't get as many applications potentially as other towns currently. So we don't have as many as some other points.
Yeah.
But
I mean-
I also think part of it was that there were many years where we couldn't take new projects
Yeah.
because most of our funding was going to
Tied
pay
up.
off debt for some of the land purchases we had done.
Correct. But-
So it's good to know that that debt is being paid down and we now have some more funds available. So we can certainly remind people to start looking at what do we want to do with those CPC funds?
Correct.
And I think as the strategic plan gets finished within the community, that will help you identify what are some things that people are thinking of long-term.
Correct.
Good point.
I mean, I will have to say, like, this iteration of CPC has done a lot, I think, to solicit what could be from different people, what could be on the horizon. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's a couple buildings I think we've talked about that are essential to Ashland's history that, there's the potential that in the future they could become available for purchase. And so we've talked about that, and we've talked about a couple pieces of land. So I think they've done a good job with that forward-thinking notion.
Great. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Erin,
Thank you.
Thank you
Joe,
very much.
thank you,
Yeah,
and
great.
keep up the good work.
Thanks.
We look forward to seeing you at town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we're a little early. So open space. Open space and rec, would you be ready to start, or do you need a few minutes? Yeah? Okay, I know you just came in, so if you don't mind, I'd like you to just jump up and we'll get you started.
Does she have to jump?
She doesn't have to jump, but, you know.
Not with that bad leg. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Why am I not connected? Oh, there we are.
Okay.
Do you want me to wait for?
Nope, you can get started. He'll be right back.
Okay. All right. So, thank you for the opportunity to give an update of our committee's work for the last year. It was almost exactly 1 year to the day that we were here last year on October 17th, 2018. So, we appreciate the opportunity. These are the committee members and their terms. William Child, and you'll hear more about their individual work a little later in the presentation. William Child, Marty Ring, Judith Sallet, Amy Syed, who is here in the audience, myself, Jean Walker, and Greg Wands. The committee was established by the Ashland, then called Board of Selectmen, in 1989, and this was the purpose of this committee. The stated purpose was to foster conservation, recreation, and open space planning, and to create a land trust or equivalent vehicle under which the town could accept, administer, and maintain open space acquisitions. And that was published in the 1989 version of directions. So one of our major pieces of work is the Open Space and Recreation Plan. And I just want to talk about that briefly because those goals relate to all the other work that I'm going to describe that we did during the past year, and I want to be clear about how it relates. So the 4 goals of the committee derive.
So before you go into that, so has the open space plan, and recreation plan been finalized and approved and is now?
No, it has not. That's going to come a few slides later.
Okay.
So the OSRP goals drive the committee's work, and there are 4 goals. The first one is to protect, connect, and enhance our conservation and natural resources. The second one is to improve diverse recreation opportunities to meet the needs of Ashland's growing population, children in the school system, residents, youth, and seniors as well. The third one is to preserve and improve the quality, character, and health of Ashland's community and environmental resources by remediating degraded lands such as Cadillac paint, protecting common resources, and preserving cultural heritage. Culture and history, believe it or not, falls under the Open Space and Recreation Plan as well. And our final goal is to build a strong constituency of open space and recreation advocates in Ashland through education and collaborative partnerships. We've had those goals since about 2007, our 2007 plan, and every time we have updated the plan, 2007, 2010, and 2014 and 2017, we've done public forums, public meetings, public surveys, and sought community input, people have unequivocally and overwhelmingly reaffirmed that those 4 goals are important to them. So they've been in the plan for a very long time. And here's the status of the plan right now. We submitted a 2017 update, which was conditionally approved pending further information that they requested. Even though they said it was a very thorough plan, they requested updates in these particular areas. So this is what we've been working on this past year, updating the population demographics, environmental challenges, resource protection, community and management needs, prioritizing the action plan by activities per year under the plan, doing a map of environmental justice neighborhoods, updating the land inventory to include ADA accessibility, particularly for town-owned properties. That was a request that they wanted us to add that to the inventory, and the ADA assessments of town-owned properties. All of these additions require that you adhere to certain criteria, within the OSRP workbook. So you need to address certain groups under each one of those topics, and you need to provide the information, or they just come back to you again and say, we need more information. So we're trying to get it all done at this point. So the next steps are that we're going to need to, in order to get final approval of this, we need to seek required letters of review from the town manager as the chief municipal officer, the planning board, and MAPC. We also last time had the director, the planning, the town planner signed off on it, the Board of Health signed off on it, the health director, a lot of other people signed off on it, but those are the ones that are required. And then we resubmit it to them for final approval.
So if you don't mind, would you let me know when you submit it to MAPC?
Of course,
Because I'm now
yeah.
on their executive board, so once
Totally.
I know it's there,
That would be great.
I can
I'll
follow up
definitely
and
do
make
that.
sure it gets done on a timely manner.
Definitely
Thank
do
you.
that. So they recommend that you not print a lot of copies until they have finally approved it, in case they still want more changes. So it'll just be like one hard copy or one electronic copy after our designer is through moving stuff around and making all the changes that we had to have her make, and putting additional text in there. After she's done with it, we'll send it to them, and then once they finally approve it, we'll traffic it around for people for the letters of review. The Riverwalk Trail Enhancement Project is the most exciting thing that we've done this past year. We're all very excited about it. If you've gone by Pine Hill Road and Mill Pond and Ocean House, where the Ashland Historical Society is, you've seen that the parking lot was cordoned off and that there's been construction going on for about 6 weeks now. And it's really, really exciting to look at. The Riverwalk Trail Enhancement Project addresses our first two goals of preserving natural resources and creating recreational opportunities. And it is the only handicap accessible trail in Ashland. And we thought that that was really important. It was a really high priority for us to have people who have mobility issues have a place that they could go and enjoy nature and sit at the edge of Mill Pond at the observation deck and enjoy it. We also did trail improvements, a trail extension from Marathon Park, a spur trail on Sudbury Road. The long span bridge across the Mill Pond Inlet is what you've seen go up in the last 6 weeks. And depending on resources, we may or may not get to a short span bridge behind linking Ashland Fish and Game to Marathon Park, downtown Ashland, and the train station. We'd really like to be able to do that, but we've run into some natural resource issues, in the sense that in between the original engineering and now, the 100-year floodplain changed, which requires different construction, different engineering, different permitting, and we just need to figure out whether it's feasible financially to go ahead and do that. I already talked about all of these things. We see the observation platform being a place of enjoyment as well as education. And we hope that the trail improvements will increase the use of the trail, make Ashland more desirable, and make it a recreation destination for folks in the area and anybody who wants to come on the train to visit Ashland as well. So thanks to Ken Ramsley, who lives on Water Street and has a drone, we have some awesome aerial photos of the construction of the bridge as it unfolded. And I want to thank Ken very much for sharing these photos with us. This is just an aerial view, which we had before. It was not from his drone, but this is an aerial view of the Riverwalk. And this blue part right here, which is not, I'm moving the cursor, but it's not showing. The thicker part, or the blue line to the right, the upper right, that's where the bridge is being constructed right now. The white is the ADA compliant trail, and it goes out to the observation deck along the edge of Mill Pond. If you go down Ponderosa Road, before you swing around to the left to go to DPW, you see this trail with a sign that says "Do not enter." That signage will be changed, because that is in fact the entrance to the trail, and we want people to be walking on that. So that is the very beginning of the trail. And that is when you get to the observation deck. That's the deck, the benches, the backless benches, the bench with a back, and then that's the view as you look out onto Mill Pond. And I expect that when the foliage comes, excuse me, it's going to be beautiful. This is a little close-up, closer view. And this is from, if you continue to walk up the trail around to the left, this is looking at the observation deck from the shoreline and up the upper part of the trail. This was the very beginning of the construction, when they were offloading all of their supplies and their materials. This is York Bridge Company who did this, and this guy lives in, I think, Oklahoma. Somebody else lived in Florida, and they just travel around the world building bridges. They were in Denmark working for 3 years on bridges. They just go all over the place, so it was really interesting to talk to them as well. So here are the aerial views. Okay, the yellow line there is where the bridge is going from the shore of Mill Pond, where the parking lot is, across the inlet. And that's going to enable people to walk the full trail around Mill Pond without having to go through anyone's private backyard. And you can see, if you look where the green is machinery there. Bulldozers that bring the poles out. So they put the poles down in the water, and then they build a little of the bridge, and then they take the equipment and move it on the bridge a little further out. And so it just keeps going. It's being built in small increments a little further and further out. It's a little bit closer view, so you can see that the yellow is stuff to protect the area. And those are the two pieces of equipment as they're starting to move out. And again, the aerial view. And this is a little bit closer. You can see off to the left, there's a guy in waders who's actually in the water guiding the poles going into the water and going to the bottom of the pond so that they can be secured. And this was how they started to put in the first one. They had an incline of dirt because there is a little bit of an arc to the bridge, and then they brought equipment out, and you can see that there's a pole dangling off the left-hand side of that piece of equipment at an angle, and they're positioning it in the water to secure it.
Interesting seeing the different colors. Yeah.
This poor guy.
This is just
Maybe he likes that.
another one.
Maybe.
When I was watching him sort of pull the equipment and move it out, I thought, it falls off on both sides. There's no guard. There's no. How is he going to get back? And then I realized he's not coming back. He's just going to keep going. So they just leave the equipment there. And you can see the guy under the bridge who's securing whatever he is securing while they're putting footings in and decking.
Yeah, that's the short strip, is right.
And this is the bridge. It's not finished. There are obviously railings that have to go up, but the actual decking has now spanned the inlet. And this is the last of Ken counted 50 posts that went into the ground. And this was the last one that they put in on October 8th.
Very cool.
So I want to acknowledge some folks without whom this would not have been possible. I looked back historically to see the origins of the Riverwalk, and I actually found the old open space and recreation plan from 1998. That was a process led, I believe, by David Foster, who at that time was a member of the Open Space Committee. And it talks about a bridge, and it talks about improving the path around the Riverwalk to enhance enjoyment of the Sudbury River. So it was an idea a long time in the making, but we've got it going now. I want to thank Town Manager Michael Herbert and Assistant Town Manager Jen Ball who managed the finances for this, as well as the procurement and bidding process, and dealt with 1.5 million details. So we all appreciate that. Green International is the engineering company that was responsible for taking the engineering the next step, so that it could be built, and they were supervising the construction. Simcoe Echo did the trail work and the observation deck and the handicapped accessibility part. York Bridge is doing the long span pedestrian bridge that we just saw photos of. Doug Small and the staff at DPW have helped with some of the site preparation to make it go faster and be less expensive for the towns. And they're so busy that we really appreciate their time to help us with this as well. GLM Engineering did the initial engineering for the first permit. Ken Ramsley provided the drone photos. I also want to thank all the members of the Open Space and Recreation Committee who spent a lot of time over a long stretch of time working on this, making decisions, reviewing bid documents, helping to choose Green International, helping to choose York Bridge, sticking with it when we had to go through 3 bidding processes for the bridge because we just weren't getting bids that were within our price range. So it was a huge amount of work, and I really want to thank the committee for all that they did to make this happen. I also want to thank the CPC committee who passed our proposal along to town meeting on May 3rd of 2017, and we were able to get $300,000 at town meeting to help fund this project. There were funds that came through the town's capital plan as well. And because of the open space plan, we also were able to get a grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund at the state for $300,000. There was also a state Mass Works grant that helped to pay for part of this. And finally, I want to thank all the town residents, because without their support at town meeting, we would not have been able to get CPC money and other funding. And this bridge is for them, and we hope that they enjoy it, that they cherish it, and that they have fun using it safely, we hope.
So before you go on, it was discussed before you got here about having a naming contest and/or if someone donated the right amount of money to have the bridge named.
No, it's the Riverwalk Bridge. That's all it is. It's the Riverwalk Bridge.
Okay.
The Eversource Pipeline Project. We have been involved in that because it addresses the issue of natural resources, wetlands, open space, and preserving our environment. And it addresses Goals A, which is preserving our environment, but also Goal D, which is building a constituency of people educated about open space and the environment. We voted to oppose the pipeline project. We sent letters to the EFSB opposing the pipeline, and we co-sponsored the screening of Under Pressure on October 2nd, along with the No Ashland Pipeline Group, Ashland Sustainability Committee, the Ashland Documentary and Film Discussion Series, and the Massachusetts Sierra Club. The Sierra Club had several people there, including Michelle Brooks, who is an Ashland resident, who was a Sustainability Committee member and does community organizing for the Sierra Club, as well as Alice Arena, who is the director of the Four River Residents Against the Compressor Station in Weymouth that's been in the news a lot. They were both wonderful answering questions for people afterwards, and the Sierra Club said that it was one of the best events that they had done, so we were pleased with that as well. The final segment here is on community activities, education, and outreach, which again is Goal D, building a constituency and having collaborative partnerships. These are some of the activities that we engaged in, participating in town forum on town-owned properties, endorsing warrant articles relative to the environment and open space. We sponsored an event, Stone Prayers, which is Native American constructions on the Eastern Seaboard, a research book done by Dr. Kurt Hoffman. And I just want to tell anybody who's interested, he is doing that talk again at the Ashland Historical Society on October 20th at 2 p.m. So you have a chance to hear it again. We're also always at the Farmers Market and Ashland Day. And we collaborate and have a role on other committees in town. Every one of our committee members is on at least one other working committee representing open space issues. So those are some, and then there are more here. So just to close, we love what we do. We're grateful to have the opportunity to do this for the town and the town's residents. We're striving to have open space be a part of every aspect of the town's planning, and we will continue to further all of the goals that we talked about and foster conservation, recreation, and open space planning to protect what is uniquely Ashland's and what we hope will be a legacy and a touchstone for residents in future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you for all the work you guys do.
I'm sorry?
Thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Very
it.
much.
Brandy or Ron?
The only thing I would say is to echo what Joe said too, but also people are very excited about the bridge and the Riverwalk project. That's the biggest question I get. People are like, when is this going to be open? This is
That's great.
People are excited because it's first of all, it's beautiful, and second, it's the first real visible sign of things to come in downtown. So thank you for all the work that you did on it.
Thank
It's
you.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Rob?
Rob.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I remember when Dave Foster was working on that in 19.
Yeah.
Shows you how long I've been.
What's
doing it.
amazing to me
Were
is
you
we
on the
still
board?
have a
Oh,
copy.
no, but I was actually on the Open Space Committee for a short time at that time, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, thank you for all your work on this. I just had a question about the open space and recreation plan process. It says Michael will sign off. Is that when, are we gonna see it at that point to review it? Is that how that
Yeah,
works?
you'll definitely
Okay.
see it. I mean, last time, I think the selectmen and the town manager signed off on it.
Okay,
Technically, there are only 3 signatures we need, MAPC, the town manager, and
Planning
the
board.
planning board.
and when do you
But
think that'll be happening?
I don't know, the graphics
Okay.
person who's putting it all together is checking her schedule
All right,
now to see when she might be able to slot it in, because she's doing it
right.
pro bono for us.
And so in terms of just general process, when you folks, do you think there's good communication in terms of people knowing about land or parcels that you're potentially interested in and being able to take action at the right time? Are there any, you pretty much have your plans and are communicating them to the right?
Okay, I'm going to
Personnel?
answer this. There are sections of the narrative where we are.
No, I understand.
Supposed to say which land we're particularly interested in and why. Like it expands to the town forest, or, it's adjacent to other
Yeah.
open space or something like that. Then on the land inventory, we sort of rank, they give us criteria with which to rank the different pieces of property. So the properties get a score, and you can see easily what score there is. We are told not to put ownership in there. We are told not to publicize the properties that we're interested in
No, I
particularly.
understand. No, my question was more of a,
for
mine was
obvious
a process
reasons.
question in terms of, I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. So if you're aware of something that you think, or a piece of land that you're interested in, I just want to make sure that there's good communication, that you're communicating
Yeah,
with Michael
absolutely.
about that.
Yep.
That's what so as we are dealing with things or opportunities come up, that we're aware of it. I just don't want to miss anything that you've identified.
Right, and
people have
what's
identified.
important is that go both ways. Like if the selectmen are interested in a piece of property, or the town manager's interested in a piece of property, that they come to us and tell us so we can see, is it a priority parcel for us?
Oh, yeah.
Or was it not when we did the plan, but things have changed and now something different is making it important,
That's
and
good,
we
yeah.
want to get behind supporting it. So the two-way it's got to be two-way communication, or it's not going to work.
I give
point.
a great example of that. So first I'll say, like any property purchase that, has been initiated, Open Space and Recreation has always supported it, voted to support it. we've let them know. But I think probably the most recent example is, and of course we haven't bought the property yet, but is 0 Tri-Street.
yeah.
So, we looked through, when the board expressed interest in purchasing that property, we looked at the open space and recreation plan. I believe it was on tier 3 on the older open space and recreation plan, and Roberta and I talked about it, and Roberta was letting us know that some of the criteria had changed and it actually had bumped up. So,
Oh.
I mean, that's part of our narrative,
Useful,
is
yeah,
that
useful
it's-
information.
Before I let you go, so just a question, with many committees, we like to see a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And I believe you're the chair, but I don't know that a vice chair and a secretary have ever been identified.
Well, we do have a secretary,
Okay,
Amy.
okay, okay.
Amy is the secretary.
And do you have a vice chair? I
We
mean,
used to, but we haven't in a long time. We had one sort of formally a long time ago before we were asked to, before we needed to. Then we didn't when she moved out of town. And then we sort of unofficially had a collaboration with a couple of the members. And right now it's, we don't have one formally.
I'd like to recommend that you formally have one, because should there be a meeting posted and for some reason you can't be there, just like what we're seeing here tonight with Steve being gone, we're still able to move the meeting forward if there's a vice chair. So we'd like to strongly recommend that you pick a vice chair so that should, you decide to go on vacation and there's a meeting scheduled because it's the third Tuesday or whatever time you guys meet, it can still happen. That's all.
Okay.
Ask a couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead.
So Roberta, just a couple questions. Well, first of all, thank you for all that you do. I know you're a very hard-working committee. You're always, meeting regularly, I think once a month at least. So the Conservation Restriction Working Group that Marty's a liaison on, are we aware of?
He's actually the chair
Or
of
the
that
chair.
committee,
Are we aware of any outstanding conservation restrictions that we need to?
You would have to
work on?
check that with him.
Okay.
I think there are 2 that they're working on now.
Okay.
We
All
should
right.
bring them before us too, right? Or don't we?
We could probably get a report
Okay,
just of
that'd
what's
be good.
outstanding. And then the second thing is, when did you apply for the funds to do the 25% design, which was ultimately done by GLM?
Wow, I would have to look that up, because that was maybe 8 years ago, maybe?
Well, I mean, they've definitely been working
a
on
long
this
time,
for a
yeah,
long
yeah.
time. So, and that was kind of the kickoff of,
Okay.
of that, so.
Nothing else? Roberta, thank you.
Thank
And
you
thank
all.
you to your
Thanks
committee.
very much.
Looking forward to taking that walk on that bridge when it's available, because that's gonna be beautiful. Thanks again.
Michael's gonna put a toll.
Michael's gonna put a toll on it? Okay.
We'll do it at
And
the,
Ashland Sustainability Committee.
do it at the entrance to Framingham.
Is this on here? Should I just advance to the next?
Is it plugged in?
You were gonna start that
Okay,
again.
great.
It's right on the desktop.
Okay, so, close this.
No, gonna be close. 9:30, gonna be close.
Great.
Let's make everybody speed up.
I wasn't sure this was realistic having so many committees, but it seems to be working.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
in
it's
one
good.
night, yeah.
Yep, that's very good.
Hey, Matt.
Hello, I'm Matt Marshquist. I'm with the Ashland Sustainability Committee. That's a tough act to follow, by the way. So we didn't build any bridges this year. Metaphorically, we built some bridges, but no actual
Building
bridges.
bridges to
That's
the
okay.
future.
Right, right. So our committee was formed shortly after the town became a green community. And the charter basically involved promoting sustainability and helping the town to be making wise use of resources, natural and fiscal, and protecting the environment. We have 7 members on the committee. Myself, Kyle Ehlers, who is also the co-chair of the committee with me, and we have Chuck Lids, who is here, Margie Gazelle, who is here, Ashwin Radhachandani, who is not here, and Rob Muhlenbeek. Who am I forgetting? Forgetting somebody. Wayne Bates actually recently resigned from the committee after many years of service, and I want to thank him for his work. He's been a wise voice on the committee for many years, and I have some more information about who might fill his seat coming up. But I wanted to thank him for his service. I also wanted to mention, while I'm thinking of the Riverwalk, there is a student at the high school who does art and ecology workshops at the library. And she does them for young children, and she teaches them about recycling. And the one I saw, she made bags out of T-shirts. But she's actually doing one about the Riverwalk and the ecology of Mill Pond. So those happen Fridays, so check the calendar for the library for the next one. Let's see. So I have a lot of thanks to give out. So I wanted to thank these students who are students at the high school, and they're part of this new Ashland Environmental Action Club. And they came out, and two of them started attending our meetings during the summer. And they've had excellent attendance. So Alexandria White and Alina Navrabaskova, if I'm saying that right. They've both attended several meetings, and they helped us coordinate composting and recycling at Ashland Day. So we had been doing composting there, but Alexandria had the idea to add composting. So she, on her own initiative, reached out to the company that provides composting for her house, the curbside pickup, and she arranged some buckets to have there. And they staffed the recycling and composting stations throughout the day. They were there all day long. They worked really hard. So I wanted to thank them for their efforts there. And then Ariana Seniak, who is pictured, she's in the blue shirt, and she's also Rob Muhlenbeek's granddaughter. She is the president of that club at the high school, and they organized, along with one of our members, Margie, a bag giveaway outside of Shaw's to help promote reusable bags. So every customer that came in, if they had a bunch of bags, they would cheer them on and say, thanks for having bags. And if they didn't, they would offer them a bag. There was one bag that was designed by a high school student, and then Shaw's also matched the bags that we gave away. So that was a nice event to happen just last weekend.
I wish we'd known about it.
Yeah.
Would have been great.
Next time we'll promote a little more, maybe.
Yeah.
I think they tried to promote it, but they tried to get like an article in the paper. I don't know if it came together. I also have a slide on here about sustainability coordinators. So this long list just kind of highlights all the things that a sustainability coordinator could do. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I wanted to thank in particular the town manager, who has helped and been very supportive of creating this position, and also the HR director, Lisa Uliaro. I hope I'm saying that right. She organized a really great process, sorting through all of the applications that came in and arranging the interviews, and we were able to sit in on the first round of interviews and meet some of the candidates, and it was a very well-run process, so I wanted to extend my thanks for that. So this person's going to be very busy. These are the types of things that this person could get involved in, and some of these are very huge projects on their own, so they'll have to kind of prioritize a bit. But I have this slide up here just so that people understand that there's so much work to do on this front right now.
And hold on 1 second, Matt. Michael, who is the sustainability coordinator going to be reporting to?
Actually, Peter Matchak, our town planner.
I know that was still being decided.
Yeah, we should thank him too for stepping up to help that person.
We're down to a few candidates, like final candidates,
Okay.
and setting up final interviews. I will say it's been great because I think Margie and Matt sat in on the interviews, and everybody just kind of organically gravitated towards a couple of candidates.
Nice.
So that was good.
Good.
So.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm very excited about this. This person's going to be a great resource. So next slide. So the big thing, we've been working on a few different things throughout the year. We've staffed tables at the farmers market, and we've been promoting curbside composting and things like that. The biggest thing is the net zero initiative. So we had a resolution which we brought in the spring, and we were ready to go to town meeting, and the select board asked us to hold on it for a while and kind of do a little more research and outreach. So we've been doing that over the summer. We held a forum on net zero. We've had some articles in the paper, and we've been mostly doing a lot of research in the committee and really digging into what this could mean for the town. So the warrant article that we're bringing forward, we are proposing for the fall town meeting, has a goal of reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2040 and establishing a short-term goal of creating a net zero plan for the town within about a year. So let me see.
Matt, can I just ask a question about
Yeah.
when I read through the warrant article? Who was, the actual plan itself next May, how does that get approved?
It would probably be in the fall. So originally I think it was going to be in the
It's
spring.
gonna go to the fall,
but
but it's probably, but is that a town meeting approval? Like it's not clear in the warrant article.
what's the approval for the plan?
Yeah, the actual plan, or is it just something you're gonna present and?
I think it's probably presenting it to the select board and
Okay.
getting their sign off. And then I think there are individual components of it that would come to town meeting. So certain actions would require a town
I
meeting
see,
vote to
okay,
enact.
right.
That's my initial thought on that. So this is just kind of a little bit of background for people who may not have seen this, but the reason we're doing this is that climate change is a very serious issue. The science is becoming more definitive and kind of more dire as time goes on. So the Earth has already warmed 1 degree Celsius since the early 1900s. And the consensus in the latest UN report is that we must restrict the average temperature change to under 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit to avoid catastrophic impacts. And this report, which came out a year ago, said that we have 12 years to make transformative changes. So we really need to kind of dig into this work. I feel like we've, as a society, we've kind of put it off about as long as we can, and now we're at that point where it's gone from urgent to like crisis level, and so everyone is starting to pay attention, and I think this is the time to act is now. These are some of the impacts. Ash did this research and put this slide together, pulling information from the IPCC report. But when you go from 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius, there are a host of impacts across the planet that get very, much worse. For us, we're in a house. If we're not right near the water, we can just kind of turn up the air conditioning. But for ocean life, for plant life, there are significant impacts. Things like loss of habitat for plants. The number of species that would be affected would go from 8% to 16%, so that's twice as many. The population exposed to sea level rise would go from 135 million to 145 million, so 10 million more refugees. And there are places in the state of Massachusetts that would be affected by sea level rise, on the Cape and Boston and North Shore. So some of these things are global, and some of them are more local. So the solution that we're proposing for this global problem, at least on the local level, is to try to reach net zero, and to do this as a community. So there are certain ways to go about this. You can build a new house that's net zero, and there are steps to do that. But old houses are a little bit harder. So we want to take it at a community level, so that we can use offsets and other means to support businesses or homes that need a little bit more support in terms of their difficulty in reaching this. But the definition, a net zero community, is one in which on an annual basis all greenhouse gas emissions are reduced or offset. So you're adding renewables, you're reducing the amount of energy you use, or you're offsetting it with other means. And this slide just kind of shows the process that we're following as a committee. And this is following recommendations from other groups such as the MAPC. So the first step is to recruit support from the community. So we've created a net zero team of advocates and stakeholders. At this point, that is our sustainability committee and friends of the committee who have been attending our meetings. And we're doing education and outreach to all stakeholders. That's in progress, sharing progress, and introducing the net zero initiative at the fall town meeting. And then after that, formalizing a committee and a deadline to create a plan. So that could expand. I think what that means is we may expand the group that's involved in this and try to get people from the business community and from schools and other groups who would be affected by this, and get their feedback on the plan. And then after that, we need to do a baseline of the town energy, which is something that we're hoping that the new sustainability coordinator will be able to help with. And we need to create a greenhouse gas inventory and then begin to make a budget for the different initiatives that we could do. And on from there, we're adopting goals, and then we're kind of incorporating a holistic planning process going forward so that we can track progress and adapt as we need to. But that, at a high level, is the timeline we're following. So I have this slide in here just to kind of show what other towns are doing. And we've been doing a lot of research on other towns as part of this process, just to understand, looking at their plans, what are some of the methods they're implementing. And on this list, you can see, Concord has an 80% emissions reduction from buildings by 2050. Lexington, 100% emissions reduction from buildings by 2050. Somerville, net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Newton, the same. And a bunch of municipalities have committed to 100% renewable energy by 2050 or sooner. And one of the other things we're looking at when we're looking at those other towns and how they put their plans together is what are the consultants that they've used, who did they get help from? Some of these models that you would have to create are pretty complex. So we're looking to see who are the experts in case the town needs to reach out for assistance in this. So within the committee, we have established some working kind of focus areas for members around buildings, renewable energy, electricity, biological resources, transportation, and business and industry. And so Chuck has been doing research on buildings and how do we reduce the energy used, what are some of the incentives we can offer, and Margie has been doing research on biological resources and looking at what can trees and wetlands do to help offset the emissions from the town, because they're a great resource for capturing carbon. And this is something I think that the community and people we've talked to are very excited about, is this idea of trying to preserve these natural resources like trees. So anytime we're doing a project in town, how do we look at preserving the trees? Because I think the default is to kind of cut the trees down and then build from there. But are there ways that we can incentivize developers to not do that? Are there ways that we can help to fund more tree planting throughout the town in certain town projects? All right, so I'm going to drill into buildings a little bit more just to kind of show you what the process would be going forward. But what we'll be doing is trying to establish a baseline. So we'd be looking at data that's publicly available, like housing age, the gas usage, electric use, whatever construction info we might be able to get from town records. And we've been trying to put together a model of how much emissions are coming from the buildings in town. So we're also trying to identify what are the gaps. So oil usage is something we can't get at very easily. Wood fuel usage. So we would have to find a way of estimating that or doing surveys or something like that to get at that data. And then for each of these categories, we're putting together some sample emissions reduction measures. So for buildings, here's a list of 5 things that other cities and towns have done. One that's relatively inexpensive is to promote existing programs like Mass Save and the Home MVP grants. So with a little bit of effort and maybe some marketing money, we could push those programs out to more residents. Another strategy is to implement a program to help people to switch from gas heat to electric heat, because over time the goal is to use more renewables to offset the electric. And so if people are using air source heat pumps and technologies like that, it can be a really good strategy for the town and for individual houses, because they can save money that way. There's actually a really good program going on right now from the Mass Green Consumer Alliance, which is offering a bulk purchase program for air source heat pumps. So if anyone's listening and is thinking about replacing their heater, reach out to the Sustainability Committee and we can send you that information. A couple of these would actually have to go to town meeting. So one idea would be to allow by right the installation of greenhouse gas reducing building improvements without special zoning review, such as like vestibules or solar hot water systems, extra insulation around the building, things like that. And another one on here is revising the stretch code. And we have a couple teams in town that are participating in the IPC, for the International Building Code Consortium has a process where they vote on the new building codes. So we're participating in that. And the goal there would be to upgrade the building codes to make them even more efficient. Now that would require state level action, so that's a little bit outside the scope of what the town can do, but we're still trying to stay on top of it. Let's see, just checking my time. I have a couple more slides, but basically this is the formula for net zero buildings. And the key thing here is that it doesn't have to be built to be a new building which creates 100% of its energy on site. There are ways in which you would make the building more efficient and then add on-site renewables, or you could supplement with off-site renewables, and that would help you get to zero. And this slide is pretty important. So for any net zero project, especially big building projects in town, you'd want to kind of look at the life cycle cost. And there's a certain point where the extra money that you invest in a net zero building pays itself off, and then you start to save money over the life. So this is an average school project that would cost about 5% more to be net zero. And after 15 years, that cost premium has been paid back, and they're saving money. Now, there are school building projects that are being built for less than 5%. It can go as high. I've seen 7% recently. So the strategy for the town is to try to make the choices and work with designers to get a net zero building that is as close to 0% premium as possible, and then you would save even more. And I have some questions here. Whatever questions you have, I'm glad to answer, but these are just some of the topics that our committee is thinking about in terms of how we work with other groups in town and the board. So one is, how can we formalize the connection between sustainability committee and other groups such as the school and public safety building projects to embed sustainability in the decision-making process?
Well, I think you have two people sitting here. I'm on the Mendez School Feasibility. Joe is chair of the public safety.
Mm-hmm.
I know every time we're talking about things at Mendez, at the feasibility committee, that's a mouthful, meetings, sustainability, green buildings, and those initiatives are always discussed. And yesterday we were in a long session looking at design of buildings and the idea of windows for light, but also how we can use, make them sustainable and green. So you may not physically, or someone from your committee may not physically be there right now, but know that it is definitely in the forefront as we're talking to the designers and as we're looking at this project. And there is a forum coming up on October 29th at the high school from 6 to 8. I'm out the Mendez building, so I would recommend attend and give your feedback and your input as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we would like to have a member attend meetings whenever possible. And I think maybe once the sustainability coordinator is online, it might be something that they would fall
Right.
into their role to help kind of
Yeah, I think what
bridge
Matt's
that.
talking about is kind of a more institutionalized presence, whether it's with a sustainability coordinator or some kind of review of or discussion of the plans.
But
It's good that people on the committee have this in mind, but also maybe a more, I wouldn't say formal, but a really kind of in the process kind of thing where we're reviewing it specifically for sustainability. And should it be a fully net zero building? There are some big decisions to be made here, so.
Well, and certainly anytime there is a building meeting, someone from your committee is more than welcome, but what I'm saying as a member who sits there, that even though that formal that you're talking about might not be there, it is being discussed, it is very aware. As we get deeper into the design process, I'm sure, and I will talk to the chair, that we do bring you in and say, okay, we're looking at this. Right now, it's still the feasibility, about whether we're even doing a new building, but.
Right.
So I think from both of your perspectives, would it be great to have someone formally there? Maybe it is a sustainability coordinator once that person gets on board, but know that it is in the forefront as we're looking at the Mendez building.
Yes, and I appreciate that. I know one of the options will be a net zero option, I think, when they get to the design stage, is what Paul said. So
And part of that is also working within the MSBA guidelines.
Right.
And then if we want to go full net zero, but they're not going to fund some of the net zero, we as a community will have to make decisions moving forward as to what we want to pay for outside of what they're going to allow us to do. And that we will definitely bring sustainability committee members in the process. I mean, that's not something we'll do in a vacuum.
Great.
I
Yeah,
can say
and-
the same thing with respect to the public safety building as well. We're still in a very early stage in talking with the designers and architects with respect to that. But that has been brought up, and it's still part of our discussion. It's, you know, it hasn't been locked in the closet in any way, shape, or form. Just want to make you aware of it.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think, you know, for us, I think it's just how do we kind of make sure that we're on top of it. And it's part of it is us being able to make sure we have someone who's focused on it. I think we may have found somebody who will be able to attend the public safety meetings when that makes sense. And then I think we're still looking for someone on the school side. If that makes sense to have someone attend the meetings, you know, we could do that. Great. And then the next one is kind of like an ongoing question, but as we move forward, if the town passes this, and I think the committee will be moving forward with some form of this, no matter what, but who are the stakeholders that you recommend we reach out to? And I think we want to kind of build that short list of people. If we want to have a net zero task force to work on business policies or, you know, school policies or things like that, who are those people? And then equity is very important in this process. So an ongoing question that we're considering is how do we make sure the benefits of these changes reach the people who have the greatest financial need in town? And then the last one is a more fun one, is like, how can we actually leverage these opportunities to boost the economy in Ashland? You know, we have some green businesses in town. Can we develop more of that?
And I would say that I think Beth Reynolds, our Economic Development Director, is very aware of that and is trying to do things like that. So certainly if you have any concerns or questions, work with her. She's more than willing to work and knows that we're a green community and definitely supports it.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to mention, there are a couple grants that we may be looking at. There's an MAPC grant that would help with promoting programs for low-income housing audits and things like that, energy audits. And then there's another one for technical assistance. So once the sustainability coordinator comes on board, you know, we'll have a lot of help with the plan, but there may be certain aspects that we would still need to bring in consultants for.
And then I have to admit, I have not looked at your list on the website. So you're the chair. Who is your vice chair?
Well, Kyle is the co-chair at this point.
Okay, co-chair,
Yep.
okay. And then do you have a secretary?
It's a rotating shift.
Rotating shift, okay.
That means nobody wants it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
It's the
I
hot
don't know
potatoes.
how aware people are that there's a lot of scrutiny in regards to open meeting law and making sure minutes get submitted on a timely manner. Thank you, Joe. And we want to make sure that as we do meetings and as we have notes from those meetings, that they get posted in a timely manner. We're not going to dictate how or what, but know that, you know, if someone comes to us and says a certain committee has not updated their minutes, we will come back to you and say, we need you to post your minutes, and they do have to be up on the town website, so.
We try to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
But there may be a
And
few.
most of the committees do, but it's one of those things where if they come to us and ask them, we're like, well, you know, so we have to come back to you, so we're asking that gets done, so. Any other comments or questions for Matt?
So I had one question.
Okay.
It just reminded me of a conversation I had at the farmer's market a few weeks ago. We were talking about trees, and I know trees are extremely important in offsetting carbon emissions. And the conversation that I had was around a tree warden, that our town has a tree warden. So that every time a tree, you know, is you know, taken out, that's accounted for and replanted. Is that what it's? I mean,
No, I mean,
Quite.
any public tree or, you know, tree that's in the public right of way. You know, if it's proposed to take that down, you have to have a hearing on
Okay.
that.
Scenic
On a
Is
scenic.
it just on a scenic road?
I believe so.
Okay.
No, all
I didn't-
all trees, because I have
Yeah.
a tree on mine, I don't live on a scenic road,
Yeah.
in a public way.
So you have to have a hearing on it and, you know, discuss, I think they discussed the options of replacement and if there's possibility of saving it. I think it really came to a head when Eversource came forward and was looking at doing a lot of tree work to keep their power lines off the
okay.
wires. And, you know, there was, I don't want to say an insistence, but there was a strong encouragement that Eversource replant a tree for each one they did. And so they pushed back a little bit on that, so we'll just not do it. So I think there was some compromise that was reached there.
Oh,
Here's,
okay.
you know, one interesting point about the trees that we're involved in, you know, as a town or supporters, we're involved in several projects, or at least probably not the school, but the public safety building will involve, I'm trying to remember if there's mature growth on that parcel, maybe not so much,
The
but.
solar project, I know
Now,
that
the
there's
solar
been-
project took down a ton of trees.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was,
Mhm.
yeah. And then, you know, the Y is gonna be there, and, you know, maybe when they do their design, they try to minimize, cause it's, you know, could be another big clear cut there as well, so, you know, we're, you know, I mean, the best way to save trees is open space and really smart development, but, you know, maybe people can be a little more considerate of
Well,
leaving them.
And encouraging people to not do clear cut, or if they have to, you know, don't go out wider than they really need to,
Mhm.
and minimize that as much as possible.
I think there's some citizens that are working on a tree bylaw, maybe, to kind of formalize the replacement of trees and, you know, when you could take them down. I don't know, do you know anybody working on that? So,
Yeah, so Marchie's been researching that, and we may bring something to a town meeting. It's gonna be somewhere in between, like, you know, you pay a fine for any tree you cut down, and, you know, you have to go to the sustainability committee for permission, or like just general guidance that reduces the number of trees. You know, we're trying to find that balance, but we heard actually there was an interesting, planting trees can be a good thing too, and I heard that there might not be trees in the downtown plan because we're running out of funding, or is that,
Oh,
okay.
no.
that
there
might
are
be-
trees galore
Pretty
Okay,
involved.
good, good.
downtown.
All right, glad.
I just, Matt, can I make
Yeah,
some
go ahead.
observations? So one thing, so, you know, Matt, thank you and the rest of the members of
Rumors.
the community. This has been a ton of work. And, you know, we've heard this, I don't know, I've heard this 3 or 4 times, probably other people have. So that's great that you're getting this out, which is what we had asked you to do. And I did want to say, there was I don't know, 3 years ago that you and I went to the Sierra Club,
Has it been that long? Two at
maybe
least.
2.5. And that was, to me, and I think
Yeah,
really.
it was
the-
very eye-opening.
Yeah, the genesis of this whole thing, we came back and said, you know, net zero, or there's a whole measure, we were already a green community, but, you know, we didn't have a net zero plan and a greenhouse gas inventory, and that was really a key thing. And, you know, that's when I think we had asked you guys to take that on, and it's a huge challenge, and you've done a great job. And we're looking forward to that, to the warrant article this November, so. And,
Anything else?
yeah.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. So I noticed, you know, the Warren article says to have our goal to be a net zero community is 2040. And I noticed all the other communities up there had 2050. And I'm a big proponent of goals, but they need to be realistic. Has there been any talk of maybe going from 2040 to 2050?
We talked about that a little bit.
12 years, Mike. Did you see this thing? 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, and
No,
I think the feeling is that, you know, the 2040 is a reaction more to the most recent science.
Okay.
A lot of the state has a goal of 80% reduction by 2050, and it's been that goal since 2008. I feel like that may get upgraded. New York State just came out with a pretty ambitious goal as well. But I think, you know, now that I think about it, part of it was by 2045 and part of it's by 2050. So I think I'm open to feedback on it if there are concerns, you know, but I think we're trying to react
It's a
to
goal.
the
Yeah. It's a
crisis
goal.
as, you know,
Ambitious
give it a sense of
goal.
urgency, but
Okay.
So to that note, in looking at the town meeting warrant, it says the town of Ashland would develop a net zero action plan by May 2020, as Rob said. Should that say November 2020?
yes, I think that's one of the changes
Okay.
that we're
You're okay with that,
Considering.
Matt? So
You're
we can
good?
just make that.
so in terms of the timeline for making
We're
that
supposed to
change.
vote this tonight to
Yeah, so
post it.
Sorry.
I mean, we can still make
We can make
changes, but
changes.
I'd rather, if we're gonna vote to change it, we do it now before we vote to.
Yeah, Matt and I talked
Can I take it
last-
back to the committee? We have a meeting on Monday. Is that the kind of change we could
So-
make?
So we can go ahead and vote it the way it's written now.
Okay.
And if the committee is amenable to doing it in November, we would just make the change on the floor.
Or we can
Okay.
change it in the motion,
Or we can change it in the motion, yeah.
which will be posted.
Well, here's a question. If they're thinking they're gonna push it to November 2020, I'd rather say November 2020, and if they get it done early, yay. And if not, we know that they have till November 2020, rather than putting it in the article that it's May 2020.
I mean, I agree, because the sustainability coordinator is just coming on, probably December or, November. So they need a little bit of time to get caught up on everything that the town has been doing, and the whole creating a baseline takes a lot of time, and then the plan takes time itself. So I think it's good feedback, and I think based on where we're at, it might make sense to push it back.
We could push it back, and then I think Matt's hesitation is he wants to take it back to the committee to discuss. We could look at it a flip way. We could go ahead and make the change tonight, and you can talk about it with the committee, because you sound like you think most of the committee would probably agree with that. If they don't agree with that, then we could then make the change on the floor the opposite way.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to handle it.
I'm open to either way. If we can change it back later, if we need to, we can,
Right,
it's
if
fine.
as we get closer to town meeting, your committee says, nope, we're sticking to this, then you make that change on town meeting floor, and we have it prepared beforehand, and we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
And my other question is, I assume being a net zero community, and I think you had this as part of your transportation section, is promoting pedestrian use, bicycling use, public transportation. So should we be adopting and developing policies that encourage that more than it encourages single occupancy vehicle use?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't need to make the plan to know, that's a good bet, I think, for us. We've done some great stuff with low emission vehicles and having charging stations, and hopefully the work we're doing with trails in the town will help to take some vehicles off the road. But I think that'll definitely be part of the strategy.
Because I think a lot of discussion for not just projects, but any time we talk about is parking, right? And enough parking. And if you have policies that encourage the adoption of single-use vehicles, it kind of goes counter to what we're trying to achieve as a green community and as a net zero community. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
So more bike parking, less car parking.
Yeah, or you build the infrastructure like multimodal pathways, like the Upper Charles Trail, to help facilitate, public.
Make it feasible, yeah.
Well, and working with our regional transit authority to improve the ability and the availability of public transportation. I mean, I was just having this conversation the other day when it was said that, it'd be great to be able to eliminate some of the single-use cars, and how change in society was. It used to be you'd have a family or 4 or 5, and there'd only be 1 or 2 cars. These days, once your kid's 16, most families, if they have 2, 4, or 3, or 5 drivers, there could be 2, 4, or 5 cars sitting in the driveway because of how we do things, because there is no ability for public transportation to get the children to where they need to, or the parents. And but definitely something we're going to need to be looking at in our region is that
Regional
public transportation
transit.
and regional transit.
Could I just make one more comment?
Yeah.
So Matt, I really love the fact that you have high schoolers that are part of a sustainability club that are kind of involved and engaged and actively wanting to help the environment. When you guys start working on your net zero project, I would encourage, if you could, to include members from that club and the high schoolers in on the net zero initiative, because yesterday, for instance, my 7th grader came home and wanted to talk about, for homework, he had an assignment that we needed to talk about the environment and what we were doing on a state and local level about the environment, and it turned into a conversation about net zero. It turned into a conversation about the EPA, and it's just, a lot. And these kids are really engaged, and they're getting engaged at a young age. So I think that they would have some really good ideas and have some really good energy. So I would encourage, as part of the sustainability coordinator's role in educating that, you kind of
Kids involved, yeah.
get the kids involved, so.
Yeah, I think that's great. And you reminded me of one thing. Our newest member is actually a member of the Ashland Environmental Club at the high school.
That's awesome.
So Alexandria White has expressed interest in joining the committee. She filled out a talent bank form, went through the process. So we're going to recommend her as a member of the
Oh, that's
committee.
fantastic.
And that fills your spot, or do you still have another open spot?
That fills the spot, but we're also looking to have more associate members. So we really, anyone who's interested in getting involved, we can use them.
Great.
So
Nice.
great.
Well, Matt, thank you. That was a great update, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more once this comes to town meeting and whatever happens with that vote, and then from there. So, thank you to your committee for the work, and
Absolutely.
we'll let you
Thank
go
you.
home.
Thank you for all your work.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're going to be moving forward. So I just want to go back to Rob's comment regarding Eversource, looking for a more technical review of the need. What I would say is we push back to Eversource, and I believe as part of our comments, we had said there needs to be a more technical review as to why the need for the pipeline. And I don't know at this point, personally, we need to spend the resources on someone else to do a technical review at this point, but that's just my thoughts. I think enough information has been made available to the siting board in regards to their decisions, and I would say that if we want to have a full discussion about doing that we add it to another agenda and make that a discussion on if we want to do that, if that's okay with you.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could I add just one quick
Sure.
thing? If, if the siting board were to open up to have more hearings, because I think that was a potential down the road thing, maybe something like that would be helpful,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, in terms of, I understand people saying, well, we may not need it at this moment, but I think, well, just from my point of view, and I think I would just suggest to others, I'd really like to see a strong analysis of Eversource's, their original criteria and their original reason for doing
Yep,
this.
I understand that, and like I said, I think, to have the discussion about whether or not we want to do that, I'd like to get it added as an agenda item.
I agree.
Because tonight it said Eversource, no new update expected.
No,
So
you're
for us
right.
to
No, I
go into a
wouldn't do this.
detailed discussion or debate about whether or not we should spend resources on an expert, I think it would be better to have it on a future agenda.
I agree,
And
yeah.
maybe have some
Hopefully next
ideas
week.
as to whether or not it would even be something that the siting board would take into consideration as they're making their decision.
Well, can I just add
Yeah,
a
please
couple
do.
of thoughts? Originally, when Rob and I had talked about this, I was thinking about it from a legal and strategic point of view.
Right.
Rob was saying, no, I think we need something, that's great, but I think we need something a little bit larger in comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a regional project. And I wonder, and we know Ashland gets no benefit. That's the common ground we've been able to
Right.
build something around. So I'm wondering if other communities would be willing to join in. These communities that are supposed to be benefiting from this. I know Framingham has a strong environmental team. Natick on the professional side, I know, has a very strong environmental team. I wonder if it'd be worth it to approach them to see if we could collectively fund that type of analysis.
Right.
So we wouldn't all be sharing the burden of the cost.
'Cause
And that's something I
that's
can
a-
think about.
That's a great point, because they've really been not involved in this. And,
Yeah.
they're the supposed beneficiaries of the reason why this is happening. And I don't
Well,
even
and
know if they're
I'm
aware of
wondering
it.
if we go even further, right? We look at Hopkinton, who
Yeah.
will be impacted, and bring it to the regional
been-
Absolutely,
collaborative and
yeah.
say, we're looking at this, and even though not all the communities are impacted by it, is there something that or is there a DLTA funding
Yeah.
through MAPC for the region and for the communities that are, something.
That's a great idea.
So it's just something
Yeah.
for you to think about and something for me
But
to
I think we
about.
should
and,
put it on
you know.
another agenda
Okay.
and get some of this information.
Yeah, I would
Mr.
like,
Lady Chairman, can I speak?
Mark, I'd like you to hold those thoughts for when we bring this to an actual discussion of the board for the funding.
Yeah, this town manager used my paper.
Okay?
This one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so
Okay,
thanks. So I just, hopefully, an agenda soon.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, moving on, update of the National Citizen Survey.
Yeah, I'll let Jen update everyone on that.
So the survey will be open for one more week. As of tonight, we had 146 respondents to the postcards that went out. So the directed random sample of 2,700 households. So it's right around 32%, which is about where we were last
many?
time. We have
846.
Okay, I thought I heard 146, I'm like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
not what you said earlier.
846. Yeah, sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
So we have we have a little bit over 30%. And when they're doing a randomized sample, 30% for any survey response is what makes it. We're able to generalize the results. I'm hoping that we can maybe surpass what we had last time, which was right around 33% response rate. So, if you have received the postcard, but you haven't yet had an opportunity to fill out the survey, or you're having any trouble, please let me know and try to fill that out. We'll be open till next Wednesday. For the opt-in, which anybody can take, so if you were not chosen randomly from the National Research Center, you can go to our website. On the homepage, there's a button that says National Citizen Survey, and you can opt in. And currently, we've only had 46 people do that. So we'd love to get as much feedback as possible. What they'll do is they'll analyze the results, and if they're able to actually take the opt-in surveys and add them to the overall, and if it doesn't skew the data, they'll do that. Otherwise, they keep them separate, and we get all of the data back, though. So we can still, it's all very usable, and we're looking forward to that. Once it closes, it will be about 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll have a draft analysis of all of the results, and then they'll work to put a nice report together for us that we can share with the public.
great, okay.
Answered one of my questions, so I can take that off my list.
Okay.
And the next is the update on the 3-year seat for the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So as you all know, Ashland has put in a bid, and we received the nomination support of 4 other communities to be the town representing the MPO for the Metro West region, 9 cities and towns. Framingham has had it for over 20 years, so they of course still want to keep it. On Tuesday morning, I went into Boston to the Transportation Building, and Mayor Spicer and I answered probably about 5 or 6 questions about why we felt our respective communities were the right communities to be representing our region at the MPO, and now basically it's a campaign.
Wow.
So what was interesting when we found out about the nominations, so for Ashland, we had on our nomination papers, we had Holliston, Natick, Franklin, and Arlington. So 2 communities within our region and 2 communities without. And I think we would have had more within our region, but because we had those ones outside of our region, we didn't need them. We found out for Framingham, no communities within the region nominated them. Does that say much? No, they just didn't get the nominations from within the region. They went outside of the region. So the elections are on November 6th, and it's 97 towns and cities that will be voting on this. But we've reached out to a couple of communities that have verbally supported us, and we're gonna see what we can do to
So
become the representative for the MPO for the Metro West region.
wow, so you're going up against Mayor Spicer. So this is
Pretty
interesting.
much.
So what are there like issues, like what would you
Well,
say
what
versus
was-
what Framingham's gonna say, or, you know?
Well, what was very interesting, because the only forum for this election was yesterday morning, and they recorded it. So, as I said, we were asked 5 questions. The first question was, who are we, why are we running for this seat, and what are some of our thoughts on transportation issues? And then discussion about how you would work maybe within the MPO, and then what would your community bring to the seat. So if anyone is interested, you can go to the MAPC website, and they videotape the forum, and you can go and see what was said, because That was yesterday morning at 8:30. It's now Wednesday night at 9:30, so it's been a full couple of days. But no, it was interesting to go, and I guess the most interesting for me is with the support of the town manager and our chair, Steve Mitchell, because he would basically, the chair of the top elected
Does the vote.
has the vote and has the seat, and then they have a designee.
Right.
And through my work with MAPC, with the regional collaborative, being the champion for 126 at the MPO, and seeing how important our region, our full region, having a voice is very important. And my fear right now is with Framingham dealing with what they're dealing, going from a town to being a city, they have a lot of needs and a lot of issues. And I think they're not going to be able to pay the same attention, because even though, again, Mayor Spicer would be the elected who has the seat, and at the forum she talked about all these connections that she had and all these people that she could talk to, she would not be the person sitting at the table for the MPO, because she doesn't have the time, which is understandable. She's trying to run a city, and they're going through so many changes. So her designee would be Thacker, and I don't remember Thacker's last name.
Thatcher Keyser.
Thacker Keyser. Again, he wouldn't have the same ability, because he's her CEO, he's on her team.
Yeah.
She's not the elected, he's not the elected. And from MAPC's perspective, they like to see the elected people having a voice at the table versus than just planners or designees from an elected.
In every town, whether it's one vote, right?
Each town gets one vote.
Yeah, or city gets one
Yeah,
vote.
each town or city.
Wow.
It's,
Yep.
I mean, part of the complications here that it's pretty easy for a city to vote. All it needs is the mayor's signature.
Right.
Whereas with a town, you have to go through a couple of layers. The other thing that, in doing some research with Yolanda on this, is that the MPO, there are 8 mayors on the MPO. There's only 6 towns represented. So one of the things I think we're concerned about collectively is making sure that towns are represented just as much as cities are. Cities already get the bulk of funding anyway through
Right.
federal funds that flow through the state and state entitlement grants and things like that.
Yeah.
So
So,
Well,
yeah, so we'll know. We'll reaching out and talking,
Yeah.
and then I won't be at our next meeting because the election and the event is on that
Okay.
Wednesday night.
So you'll be out there shaking hands,
Yes.
You go canvassing.
canvassing town to town.
I think we'll be making some phone calls.
Yes, okay.
But, yeah,
Interesting.
and that's where that's at.
Cool.
Okay, moving on to the Triple E update. Anything there, Michael?
yeah, we really haven't had anything new since the last meeting, but I do want to bring up Halloween. So, no, we are not canceling Halloween. Actually, just the opposite. What we're going to do next week is next Wednesday, so the day before Halloween. We're open later anyways.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, I'm sorry.
2 weeks.
It's okay, don't scare me.
I know.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to open up Town Hall. Staff are going to come in costume, and we invite all the residents and kids to come out. We'll have candy and everything for them. So it'll be a good opportunity for them to come see Town Hall and interact a little bit with the employees and learn a little bit about the departments while they're,
When is
indulging their sweet tooth.
When is that?
The 30th. So no, we are not canceling Halloween. We're going to celebrate Halloween.
So Town Hall will be open till 7 like it usually
Yes.
does. And we're encouraging families to come in and
Encourage you
do
all
their-
come in and visit the different offices and different departments and grab a handful of candy. I'm not promising it's going to be healthy.
Wait, it's candy. It's not going to be
Yeah,
healthy. That's
it's-
okay.
It's okay.
He's not promising there's gonna be any left.
Uh-oh.
Good point. That's a good, yeah,
Great.
no rebuttal to that one.
You-
So yeah, invite everybody to come
Great.
visit us.
Okay, thank you. Vote to close and post the warrant for special town meeting. So other than that change from May to November, anything else we need to be aware of?
The only thing is we are going to have to do a zoning bylaw change, to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board officially.
A zoning bylaw change?
Yes, so any reference to the zoning
Okay.
code to Board of Selectmen needs to be changed to the Select Board. And because that requires a 2/3 majority, you have to have it separated out as a different article.
Oh, okay.
So let me ask you this question with respect to that. What about the charter?
The charter, I believe this article allows us to file a home rule petition to amend the charter.
Okay, because it's under selectmen and not select board, so I'm concerned that, do we have to go the same route, or is,
This is the petition
Yeah.
to general court.
So Article 13 is to vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the general court, that's a home rule petition, to amend the Ashland Home Rule Charter.
okay.
So,
In the interest, when I went to that legislative breakfast, there was a representative there, and I forget his name, who said he was on, I mentioned that we changed the name, and he said, oh yeah, you'll be coming to see me, or, apparently there's a lot of this going on. So
Yes.
they,
Mhm.
he's one of the people that
Municipalities.
Yeah, that deal with that.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm on a chat for elected women, and someone brought it up that they were looking to do it, and they were told that it could cost anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 to have their lawyers go through the documents, and
Right.
we're gonna see that. We have to have someone go through and change all of our documents from Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
Yeah, I think somebody asked me that. I think
Well, it's fresh in our mind with the charter review committee, because we just did it within, well, we got it
Couple
approved
years.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So we made the, we saw the changes with selectmen and stuff, so we,
But
but,
when you were doing the charter review,
yep.
this was never brought up.
No, it wasn't. No,
Which
but
still-
we know at some point, we're gonna have to
Right.
change all those selectmen to select board.
Oh, yeah.
And there's quite a few.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, quite a few references.
That's right.
Okay.
I do feel compelled to kind of just go briefly
Through
through
'em?
this,
Sure.
just for the
Yeah.
audience.
Okay.
So, first, hear report of the town manager. Second, adjust fiscal year 2020 appropriations.
Yeah, I did.
We've got about $50,000. I think I'm gonna put a little bit more into the fire department to help ensure that we have funding to,
Do the match for the
to
grant.
do the match for the grant.
Okay.
Free cash, this is really one I wanted to highlight. We've got a larger free cash number this year than usual. It's around 2.8 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's being driven by two things. First of all is the money from Robert Hill Way. Remember, we had that on the warrant last time, we withdrew it, and so we did say that was gonna fall to free cash.
Okay.
And then also there was $350,000 during last year's certification that we felt should have applied to free cash last year. DOR did not agree. Lo and behold, this year, it
They said-
shook out that way, so, that's almost $1 million right there.
Wow.
So we are going to, again, be looking at our financial policies. We'll be putting a little over 200,000 into our general stabilization fund to keep it at its 10% match. We're gonna be putting 700,000 into our OPEB trust, which is a
That's great.
great thing. We're going to pay for the deferred capital from May in the pay-as-you-go system. We're going to put roughly $200,000. One is for a space, part of it's going to be for a space needs analysis. For municipal buildings. I mean,
Okay.
we are getting tight. I know the community center is really getting tight with the addition of human services and that stuff. And we're starting to run into some issues here.
Okay.
So we want to look at that holistically. Also, money for that short span bridge. And then I'm actually going to propose putting
I
$500,000.
think we lost your mic.
You lose them? I'm good?
Okay.
All right.
Oh, okay.
I'm also going to
Changed.
propose putting $500,000 into our capital stabilization fund for the
Okay.
public safety building.
Okay.
So, Article 4 is the property tax exemptions, no surprises there. Article 5 and 6 are related to the purchase of 0 Tri-Street and a corresponding development restriction. Article 7 is the dispense of real property, which is 433 Chestnut Street. Article 8 is to authorize easements along Main Street. There's 5 of those.
Okay. Will there be a map created?
There will be a map created. There will be a map on file in the town clerk's office. We're still calculating what those easements would be. 2 of the properties have already agreed to give that to us.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Um, 9 is the Mill Park beautification, Mill Pond Park beautification that Aaron and CPC referenced. Same with Article 10, which is the Town Forest Restoration Project. Article 11 is the decrease in demand fees, which we decided this was something that we would put forward after the excise tax issue.
Right.
Article 12 is the net zero resolution that Matt just spoke of. Again, with the change
To November
from
2020.
May 2020 to November 2020. Articles 13 and 14 deal with the name change to the Select Board. And then Article 15 is a zoning bylaw, which essentially outlaws storage spaces in the commercial highway commercial highway district. So
Nothing like closing the barn door after the horses leave.
yes. So
Well, at least they're doing it.
right, yeah. And I just got to be clear. People need to understand properties that are currently there and their owners.
Do
If this bylaw passes, they still are grandfathered.
Okay.
Right.
Even if a new developer comes in and proposes to do that,
Okay.
they're still grandfathered because the ownership is still going to be with the original owner until the permits are issued. Then the developer will take it over.
So if I currently own property in that district and I sell it to a developer, that developer still can do it by right?
Yes, because the developer will not take ownership of the unit until, so the permits will be applied for under the original owner's name. The developer will be going through the permitting process, but it's still going to be held in the original owner's name. The purchase and sale agreement will say only if and when that project gets its permits does the transaction actually happen and the property is actually closed.
So,
Yes.
so really,
It's a couple layers. I mean, it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It
Okay.
doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I just don't want people to have unrealistic expectations.
What are you referring to?
The Article 15.
No,
the-
I know, but what specific?
so if I currently own a home there,
No, but I
and
thought
it-
you were talking about a particular project or
Over by the
issue.
no, just in general,
Oh, in general, okay.
right? If I own the property and a developer comes in and says that they wanna do
You can,
a storage,
you do it
they can
yourself.
still, that can still happen. So it's not until I sell my property to someone else and they try to go do it, that they
Right.
won't be able to do it with the developer.
Exactly.
Okay,
So, like I said, just want to set realistic expectations.
makes sense?
Yeah, now it makes sense, okay, good. Why do it if we get, it's gonna be a lot of.
But, hopefully,
I noticed there was no money in for electronic signs for downtown.
In the capital.
Killing me, you're killing me.
what?
We're going to do it as part of the downtown project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Jen knows how important it is, too.
Okay.
it is.
So.
Anything else? Any questions on the warrant?
No, I'm good with it.
No? If I can get a motion to vote to close and post the warrant for the special town meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, and just, so FinCom is planning on voting on recommendations on the 22nd next
Okay.
week. So if that's done, we will have the warrant closed, posted with recommendations pretty much a month before town meeting,
Nice.
which
Very
is
nice.
a record.
That's
Very nice. Good.
And I'm not gonna say that's ever
Can
gonna
I
happen.
just make
again.
a recommendation that the vote reflect 4-0-1 absent?
I would expect Susan to do that.
Okay.
I'm not.
No, I know, but I just wanted, because we do that, and I just wanted to make sure that it's.
Well, sometimes we use that one as a recusal, and so
We do.
I would expect Susan will do it appropriately. Thank you, though, for reminding us.
Question.
So the next thing we have is a letter of support, but I'm noticing a Division of Conservation Services grant program request for reimbursement. Is that something we have to do something with?
No.
Okay,
That's part of the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for the Riverwalk.
okay.
I'm not good on that.
No
Is
idea.
that just
Huh.
information
Okay.
for us?
Quite frankly, I don't know how that got in there.
Okay,
Too much paper floating around.
Right.
So,
so just ignore that.
Never mind.
Moving on. Okay, letter of support for vaping ban, Board of Health / Select Board joint letter. Brandy, this is you.
Sure, thank you. So at our last meeting during my board report, I had talked about a forum I had gone to several weeks ago from the Decisions at Every Turn Coalition, And one of the things that they had shared was some of the results from the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey that they had done in 2018. Senate President Karen Spilka was there, had given some remarks at the front end of the meeting, specifically regarding Governor Baker's vaping ban. And one of the things that she had said was that if anyone had any comments or questions to reach out to her, that she was a resource for us. And so given the data that had come out on the health survey, I had reached out to the Board of Health and recommended to them that perhaps they write a letter of support to the governor in support of the vaping ban, given the statistics that had come out from the survey. The Board of Health at that point had voted in favor of doing the letter. I brought it to our board the following day as part of my board report, and we had voted to authorize a joint letter. So I had reached out with a draft to the Board of Health, and they had approved the draft that you see in front of you, and I can read it so everyone kind of understands what the letter says. And if anybody has any comments, we can absolutely make any edits. So this is to Governor Baker. Dear Governor Baker, as a community, the town of Ashland shares your concern over the public health crisis surrounding vaping and the sudden onset of lung illnesses, particularly among youth. In 2018, Ashland's Decisions at Every Turn Coalition, a community-wide group dedicated to preventing and reducing youth substance abuse, conducted the Metro West Adolescent Health Service survey for Ashland middle and high school students and released the data 2 weeks ago. This self-reported survey, given every 2 years, showed an alarming trend. Vaping use is rapidly increasing among both middle and high school students. For middle school students, 11% self-reported that they had vaped in their lifetime, up from 6% in 2016, with 7% reporting that they had vaped within 30 days, up from 3% in 2016. The high school data is even more dramatic, with 44% vaping within their lifetime, up from 28% in 2016, and 34% vaping within the last 30 days of the survey, up from 18%. We are writing you today in support of your state ban on all vaping products and would ask that you keep the ban in place until research has determined what is causing these sudden lung illnesses. We would also encourage the state, if and when the ban is lifted, to impose stronger regulations on flavored vaping products, which clearly targets our youth. All of our Decisions at Every Turn coalition, which includes school administration, school health personnel, town officials, and public safety officers, are using this vaping ban as an opportunity to further educate our youth on the dangers of vaping and be a resource for those that are attempting to quit. We continue to emphasize that e-cigarettes are not safe cigarettes, and with your help and our community's work, we hope that we will see a downward trend in the youth vaping numbers for 2020. On behalf of our community, we thank you for recognizing the public health emergency and taking the step to temporarily ban vaping products for 4 months, and we thank you for your support to help keep our youth safe. Sincerely, Diane Mortensen, Chair of the Ashland Board of Health, and Stephen Mitchell, Chair of the Ashland Select Board.
Yeah.
Yep. Right to the point.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
I just had a question. So was there any, how are the kids in the survey getting these vaping products?
How are they getting?
Was there any information on how they get it? Like, so because we're talking about closing the stores or banning the stores for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you put it in here about the kids, which is certainly concerning, but are they getting the products from these stores that are closed? Are they getting them somewhere else?
Out of state.
So realize stores aren't closed, they're just banned from selling it for 4 months.
Well, some of them are actually closed because that's what they do.
That's all
That's
they
all
sell.
they sell.
Right.
I don't know if that was captured in the survey. I think
No.
the survey's available,
Yeah.
the
The
results.
only thing I'm wondering about, and I don't really think I have a big problem with this letter, but if we're concerned about children, but they're not getting it from these stores, this letter's about keeping the stores closed. I guess that's my concern about that. you know, how are they getting them? Are they getting them out of state? Are they getting them?
I
We
would,
think the stores are, you know, where these things are eventually coming from, or, you know, that's the,
So I would say, they didn't go in detail as to where it
well,
was
if you go
coming
into
from.
the stores that sell them, you'll see the areas where they were on the shelves are
Right.
now empty.
no, I understand, but,
So it
so
wouldn't be
where
the
does a
store.
middle school or a high school kid, cause this is, I'm presuming this is all, you gotta be 21, right? To buy
Yes.
this stuff.
Yeah.
So how would they get it? I guess that, cause that's what this letter's concerned
Friends,
about.
older,
But you think they're
older
buying in the
siblings.
stores?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's, I
No
guess that's what
different
I'm
when,
asking.
when we
like,
were younger and you got stuff from who? Your older friends.
Are the stores a transmission?
have no experience
Because
with that, Joe.
the stores are what this action is taking on. And is the stores the transmission?
I
of how
think
the
right
kids are
now,
getting
what
it?
we're doing here is supporting what the governor has done as a
Yeah.
ban for 4
Right.
months. And I think some of the questions that you have were not asked in the survey, but I think
Right.
all the information on the survey is online, so you could probably go to the decisions website and, I mean, they publish the report on the survey. I mean, I remember hearing the results from the survey when our kids were still in school, so it's not
Right.
a new thing
No,
that
no,
they're
I
doing.
understand.
But I think, you know, this letter in particular is just supporting what the governor has done, and certainly what we as a community need to look at moving forward.
All right, well,
So like the principal of the high school had said that, what she's seeing is that the kids think that these products are safe.
Right.
Is,
Yeah,
that's the
because they're-
perception,
Well, it's
is that they are
it's
safe.
promoted that
It's
way.
promoted as
It's
safe,
promoted
yeah.
that way, and they are also, the ease of use, the fact that they can, do it in the restroom without, or on a bus, it's just, and so, the high school community is very much on board with educating and trying to prevent this from happening. But the trend is just really, really alarming.
Yeah.
And so that's what struck me was, this was in 2018, we're in 2019, we have this 4-month period.
right, and it certainly seems like the 4 months is a reasonable plan. Some people are paying a price for it, the store owners, but.
Right, and I don't advocate for shutting down small businesses. I don't think that that's
But if
necessarily
it's
the
pro-
right
if
thing
it's
to do.
promoting- and I have to agree with, but if it's promoting a health issue.
Right.
That's taking, the health of our kids, or anybody for that matter, and it's not our children, or anybody. I mean, it has to be looked at and it has to be dealt with.
Yep.
It really needs to be dealt with.
And it's scary. It's like 50% of these lung illnesses are people
Right.
under the age of 20.
Right.
So it's not chronic cigarette use for
Right.
30, 40
Yeah.
years. It's
A few years.
yeah.
All right,
or
I'm
even-
agreeable to this letter. I just
Okay.
think that, it'd be interesting to see at the end of 4 months, like, where are these kids getting this stuff? And is there gonna be an underground market now that the legitimate stores
Well, I
are
think
closed?
as Michael
pop
said,
up.
you can,
Supply
I'm
and
sure you
demand.
can still buy it online
Yeah.
and get it shipped in. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right,
in that Amazon box that shows up.
yeah. So,
Okay.
anyway,
If I can get a motion to support the letter as presented
So moved.
in a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Brandy, thank you for
Thank you.
working on this
Yeah.
and for working with the Board of
Well
Health.
written.
And
Thank you.
Yeah,
yeah,
very
we'll
well
get
done.
that in.
Very well
Thank you
done.
very much.
They just had something on the news about that too, that another case was just determined.
Yeah.
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 So one other thing, just to, so tomorrow, the Decisions at Every Turn is having it's like a town hall style meeting at the library at 5:30. And they're having, I believe, a pediatrician from UMass that's gonna be talking about this. Chief Alfano's gonna be there. I think, Paul Vieri from the school administration is gonna be there. And I think, one of the things is that, a lot of these kids are having withdrawal symptoms from vaping. And so how, that's part of this is helping the kids, get through this and get resources to help, so.
Well, it's interesting to see how they broke it down too, with respect to nicotine sales of the vaping and THC vapes.
Right.
And it's
That's the dangerous stuff.
it's
yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
It's extremely interesting. So, yeah, kudos to the DAET and everybody else that's involved in this.
I hope it doesn't take us as long to figure out that this is not healthy for us
God, I
as
hope
long
not.
as it did with cigarettes.
Yeah, let's hope not. But then again,
Yep.
you talk blue to your face.
I mean, to be able to you walk around and drive around in New York City, and there are billboards for juuling and vaping.
Oh, yeah,
And you go, how is that possible?
big money,
Yeah.
It is big money.
big money.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Town manager report. Update on the MWRA connection.
Okay,
That's it.
before I start, do we want to try to get done before 10? That'll-
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what we
All
can
right.
do.
So, we did get the bids in for the MWRA connection. It came in at a little over 1,700,000, which was in line with our estimates. Again, this is a contract with Southborough, between the contractor and Southborough, and we will reimburse them. It is, the scope, well, not the scope, but the time frame to get the work done is no more than 270 days. So that brings us to about June 2020, and I think it will be done beforehand, but that's, the contract stated
Everything
date.
going good, yeah.
So there's that. Any questions on that?
No.
Really looking forward to getting that online.
Sorry,
and
when
getting
did
it-
you say it was gonna happen?
So work will be starting immediately. I think it actually has started. The contract was signed in
Been so
September.
long, yeah.
But the timeline for work is, the deadline is 270 days after the contract was executed. So that puts it around June of 2020. But again, I hope it's done sooner.
So it'll be in place should we need it next year.
Correct.
In the
Great.
summer, yeah, okay.
And then last is, I know it's not, this is part of the including but not limited to. I want to put on your radar screen that I will probably put before the board, maybe not next week, or next meeting, but the week meeting after, the waiver of fees, water and sewer fees and building permit fees for the Robert Hill Way booster pump station. If you know the history of that, back in 2013, the town made a commitment to put in a booster pump station and pay for it, and that was written in the decision. It limited Robert Hill Way's contribution. Unfortunately, when we went out to bid, we had Robert Hill Way go out to bid and look at doing it privately. It went from 350,000 to 700,000. And if we ended up doing it ourselves, with prevailing wage and things like that, it'd probably be over $1 million. So we've been trying to work. I said we're not paying that much money. We just can't do it. And so we've worked out a way that's actually going to, I think, cost us less than what it was going to cost us originally, while still getting the booster pump in place for the neighborhood. Because the neighborhood needed it before we even
Right,
put Robert Hill
right.
in. Yep. So I'll be bringing that before the
Okay.
board.
Good. Anything else?
Kudos
That's it.
to you on
Did
that.
you wanna
Okay.
talk about your meeting with the?
Oh,
Upper
the Upper Charles Trail,
Committee?
yeah,
Just
so I did meet with a couple members of the Upper Charles Trail. We've talked about doing an RFP for engineering services on the Trolley Brook Trail in preparation for construction. I think there's a little bit of a disagreement among some of the members about the scope of how long that section should be, but I think we'll work that out. And I think they're anticipating going for CPC funds in the spring.
Okay. And then will they also be applying for some more grants?
That we should be doing that,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, definitely.
And the other thing was they did give you the draft of the letter to, parcel. to
Voyagers
private
Lane.
landowners and.
Yes, and that's part of the mix too. And Rob, I think you and I are gonna work on
Yeah, that'd be.
what you work your magic on.
Yeah, right, that'll do it.
So-
That'll
All right.
be-
Okay.
We'll see, thanks.
Okay. That's it for our formal agenda. Board reports? Brandy, why don't you start?
Sure. So there's been a lot going on at Corner Spot over the last couple of weekends. I was at Fall Fest on the 6th and Culture Fest on the 12th, and then we're closing down Corner Spot this next Saturday with the Festival of Lights for Diwali, and that's from 2 to 6 at Corner Spot, sponsored by the Ashland Indians Club. There's a Rangoli contest and cultural performances and some really good Indian food. So if
That's Saturday, right?
that's Saturday. Yep, Saturday afternoon.
2 to 5, right? 2 to
2 to 6 is
2 to
on the
6,
thing.
okay.
I don't know with the
With
time.
the schedules
Yeah.
and stuff.
So, but I would encourage folks to come out for that. And also, one other thing I wanted to just mention was that I was at, this past Sunday, I was at the library for the Friends of the Ashland Public Library sponsored the first of a concert series that was put on by the Andromeda Quintet. One of our Ashland residents, Marina Crickler, has revived the Sunday concert series, and so the next one is going to be in December 22nd, but there were probably over 50 people that turned out for this. It was great. It was really, really great. So I would encourage folks to look for the next one. And that's all. And then I'm going to be at the Decisions at Every Turn meeting tomorrow night as well, just to see what's new.
Rob?
All right, just some quick updates. So, the BAA grants have all in last week and a half, so at the next meeting, Steve and I will have recommendations for people. I don't know if people had a chance to see the Telecron clock display, and that was put together by
Do you know somebody who did that?
one of our senior residents, Rita Rennie, has been doing this actually for years now, I think, for the historical commission putting together these little displays. And so those clocks are really interesting. They're kind of like, what's the word, Art Deco kind of plastic. They're really kind of cool.
Where's the display?
It's right up by the, outside the
The
clerk's
clerk's
office.
office.
Yeah,
Oh,
clerk's
okay.
office, yeah,
In the
right.
glass case there.
Yes,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's, yeah. So, yeah, if people haven't, when you're in town hall, if you haven't seen it, check that case. So, and
Purple
thanks.
glass one is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and thanks Rita for doing that. And she turned down the cane. I offered her the cane.
You'd have to fight that with Mrs.
She's
I was
over
gonna
90.
say, I don't know that Tara's letting it out of her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably not. Probably
And,
not.
and the other quick, Roberta mentioned this, the stone prayers that Dr. Curtis Hoffman will do this Sunday at the Historical Society, I think at 2:00. I went to his last presentation, and it's really interesting. That's all I'll say, that these sites, and they're actually, if the weather's good, I think they're gonna try to go over to the town forest and actually look at some of those sites. So
Nice.
that's cool.
Cool. Good.
That's it.
Okay, Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few things. I'd like to give a shout out to the Ashland High School football team and the Ashland girls volleyball team. They're doing extremely well. The football team is undefeated, and they play Holliston this Saturday. I believe it's 3:00 at home. It's homecoming. It's at home. Holliston's undefeated and Ashland's undefeated, so that's going to be a game. So if you look, it's the
What
game
time
of the
is it?
week. I think it was 3:00. So if you're
At
not doing
at
anything,
Ashland High School.
yeah, at Ashland High School. That's the game to go watch. The girls volleyball team, they just lost one game. I think they're like 11 or 12-1. They're having a fantastic season, and I wish them kudos and congratulations for a great season so far.
Nice.
The Ashland annual Halloween parade and party is still on. We're still having reservations about what we should do, but the cooler weather is coming, and there was some frost on the ground last night.
I saw some frost on
So
something when I
I'm
went
saying
out
to myself,
walking this
keep
morning.
getting frosty,
so.
just keep getting frosty. And so we are gonna have it at 6:00 on the 25th. It's the Friday before Halloween, and we'll be starting at the Montenegro Square, and we march down to the Mendez School, the gymnasium, and that's where we have a big parade around. And I know the Yolandas will be in there helping out with us,
Yep.
and the candy bag brigade is all set and ready to go. I don't ever want to see another piece of candy for another year. It's god awful.
I just want to say, if as a parent you have never done this Halloween parade, it's so much fun. It gives the kids an opportunity to try out their costume. They see their friends. You get to see your friends, and it's a lot of fun, and it's fun to see everybody.
And it's all free. I mean,
Yes.
the candy bags, everyone gets a candy bag.
Yep.
Everybody gets juice and honeydew holes.
Yep.
So they're all free. And we have a new category this year, and it's for it's a parent category.
Ooh, a parent
Boy.
category.
Is there a town manager category?
Yeah, well, you're a parent.
Aren't you a parent?
Yeah. Come on in.
I wanted to
Oh, you want your
ensure that I
own?
win.
We'll get you and the mayor.
You know how
to-
mortified my child would be if I showed up in costume?
It's the best reason to do it.
That's more reason to.
Our
That's it
job
exactly.
as parents is to embarrass our kids.
That's right. That's right.
Mortified.
So that, and I appreciate Brandy's, all her effort with the DAT. It's nice to see that group take over something that I started over 20 years ago. And, you know, I found my old survey that I gave to the kids back in 1991 from the high school. And it was just incredible, because that's when things were just starting to come out with respect to dating violence and things of that nature. So we added that element to the survey. And it's interesting, not a lot of things have changed over the years. Not a lot of things have changed over the years, especially when it comes to smoking and other things. How the kids would, you know, they would support their friends, but they would never rat on their friends or never say anything on their friends, but they would support whatever decision they would make. And basically the same as what you're hearing today, which is, well, it's kind of shocking, but it's not shocking. You would think that they would help their friends out a little bit more. But anyway, and then we have an open meeting law class coming up. Is it next week?
The 30th.
The 30th, right? At 7 o'clock at,
2 weeks.
I gotta put that on my
Down-
schedule.
So grab some candy and then go to.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's right before, we could
Right.
trick or treat in town hall and then.
right, and we can go up in costume.
And is that going out to all our boards and committees, or who is it going
Susan,
to?
you've put
It's a
that
big,
out.
it's a big
Yeah, you did, because
distribution.
I got another invite
There's a
again today.
lot of people who have
Yeah.
responded.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I just wanted to remind them.
You're gonna be there,
those
Matt?
folks for that.
Sorry,
The
when's
30th.
It's
The
The 30th.
30.
At 6:30, I'm sorry, I thought it was 7.
At the
Okay.
community center?
Okay, 6:30,
Yes.
okay. If you want to.
You can come trick or treating here.
First, and
Yeah,
then
come
go.
here, go up there, yeah.
Okay.
Come
And
as a
I'm glad you
present.
stayed, because something really quick, WEEI had, they were talking about paper straws today. And it's interesting how many restaurants in Ashland have gone to paper straws. Totally interesting.
Good, yeah.
So
There's at
what's
least 3 that
interesting-
I know in town that have gone to paper straws.
You're making a face, Michael? I was having this
Straws were
conversation.
actually part of our conversation
And
yesterday.
When straws first came out, they were paper straws. I mean, I
Oh,
don't
they
remember
were.
that,
Yeah.
but
But they weren't made the way they are today, because you
No.
took one suck, a sip of whatever drink you're doing, and the total straw collapsed, and you never
Yeah.
got the drink out of it again.
okay.
But they're going to pasta straws now too. I just want to let everybody know.
bamboo.
Or bamboo,
Yeah.
right. So just-
I think,
Notice
I
the
think
heat
it,
knives
I think
at,
I'm a big fan of
meeting launcher.
on request only, you know,
Yeah.
using straws, because, you know, in general, most of us are, you know, live our lives at home without straws
Yeah.
and,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Yep.
I think they said, I saw a stat on the news, 500 million straws are used every day.
Every day. Yep, that actually was discussed on the radio today.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I'm
I
all
need a
done. Thank you,
motion.
Madam Chair.
I need
Okay.
a motion. We're past 10.
Oh, motion to go past,
Second.
to not go past 10 o'clock?
All in favor?
Aye.
No, to go, well,
To go past.
okay, real quick, so, let's see, what have I been doing? I want to congratulate and thank the board, the volunteer board of the Farmers Market. The last Saturday was this past Saturday on 10/12. It was not a great day for their last day, but they still had a good turnout. They had some great music. So congratulations to them. And I know there is a Farmers Market, indoor market, this Saturday before Thanksgiving. Let's see. There will be a Metro West Regional Collaborative meeting on 10/24 at 8 o'clock in Natick that I'll be attending. Noodle City is celebrating its 1-year anniversary on Sunday from 11:30 to 12:30. A shout out and congratulations to the Bagel Table, because they apparently had their anniversary a week or a week and a half ago.
Yep.
That was very quick. Dolce de Leche, who we gave an entertainment license to, is having their official ribbon cutting on Friday at 11:30. On Tuesday, October 29th, there will be a forum at the Ashland High School cafeteria regarding the Mendez feasibility study. So the members of the Mendez feasibility study committee will be there, as well as our consultants from our design and engineering companies, as well as our OPM. 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, it's your opportunity to come, hear where things are at. It's the update from the last meeting that happened in September. And the timeline and aggressiveness to get this project moving is going pretty fast. So if you want to have any input or want to see what's going on, October 29th from 6 to 8 at the Ashland High School cafeteria. I think there's going to be some some like roundtable discussion. So I don't know that it will be filmed because it might be difficult to film. And I believe that's it. if I can get a motion to adjourn.
Shout out to my brother, happy birthday. I forgot today was his birthday.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your night and have a great Halloween, and we will see you on November 6th for our next select board meeting. Thank